Chapter 7:16. Senior Tuoba, it's me, Tuoba Shah, who was heavily injured and had fallen to the ground, had a cold look in his eyes. Just as he was about to attack, a familiar voice rang in his ears. Tuoba Shah's heart skipped a beat. He looked over and saw a slender, handsome young man flash to his side. "It's you." Seeing Chu Hen suddenly appear here, Tuoba Shah could not help but be surprised. In comparison, the surprise in Chu Hen's heart was much thicker. After parting ways in the Moon End City, Chu Hen had not seen Tuoba Shah again. He originally thought that Tuoba Shah should still be in the 100 Nations region. He did not expect that he would come to the victorious East region and witness such a scene. Who were those people? Were they the enemies that Tuoba Shah was looking for? However, Chu Hen knew that this was not the time to ask such questions. Without another word, he hurriedly went up to help Tuoba Shah. "Senior Tuoba, I will take you away now." However, Tuoba Shah grabbed Chu Hen's wrist tightly and said with determination, "Don't worry about me. You can't defeat them." Chu Hen frowned slightly, his gaze subconsciously looking towards the direction of the previous battle. In the sky over there, a thick blood-colored fog covered the sky and covered the surroundings. A red lantern that was hundreds of meters wide hung between the heavens and the earth like a shocking weapon. Bang! Bang! The interior of the huge lantern continued to emit waves of intense turbulence. The violent impact from the inside to the outside caused the surface of the red lantern to bulge out one protrusion after another. The powerful vibrations were like a rapidly brewing volcano. It was obvious that this treasure could not hold on for long. Chu Hen clenched his teeth and said in a low voice, "Senior, I will not leave you behind. I have a way to take you away." No, Tuoba Shah's face was pale and blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. His voice was low and slightly vicious. "Just now, they left a vital energy imprint on me. No matter where I escape to, I will be found. You can't save me." "Who are they?" Chu Hen's eyes turned cold. He was puzzled. How did the other party provoke such terrifying enemies? "No, don't ask any more." After Tuoba Shah finished speaking, he took out an iron box that was covered in dark golden patterns. The iron box was about the width of 2 palms, and it was covered in strange runes. Take it, what is this?" As Chu Hen asked, he took the metal box into his hand. The moment he touched it, an extremely cold chill surged into Chu Hen's body. Tuoba Shah shook his head and said cautiously, "There's no time to explain so much. Hurry up and leave. Remember, you must find a way to destroy the thing inside the box." "What?" Chu Hen didn't quite understand the meaning behind the other's words. However, time was of the essence, and Tuoba Shah had no time to explain too much to the other party. He pushed Chu Hen away and growled, "Go, boom!" At the same time, a thunderous sound came from the sky. A dazzling beam of light pierced through the huge red lantern. The incomparably powerful beam of light pierced through the sky, like the first rays of the morning sun breaking the dawn of the common people. Chu Hen's expression changed. At this moment, it was extremely difficult for him to make a decision. Although Tuoba Shah didn't have a good reputation in the outside world and was even called a demon, in reality, Tuoba Shah wasn't a bad person. In the 100 Kingdoms continent, he had helped him several times. Especially that time in the Moon End City. If Tuoba Shah hadn't appeared in time, Chu Hen might not have been able to successfully leave the Tsang family. But he also understood that he really couldn't take him away. Chu Hen clearly saw how powerful those people were. Just the silver-armored guard alone was a top-notch expert. As for the man in golden armor, he only used a few moves to make Tuoba Shah lose the ability to fight back. The current situation was clear at a glance. Immediately, Chu Hen cupped his fists and said in a deep voice, "Senior, take care. Go." Tuoba Shah still roared in a deep voice. Chu Hen's eyes flashed with an unbearable expression. Shortly after, he clenched his teeth, turned into a ray of light, and shot out. In an instant, he was several miles away. Looking at Chu Hen's disappearing figure, Tuoba Shah was still anxious. He climbed up with difficulty and stumbled in another direction. At this moment, a deafening explosion exploded in the sky above. The crimson lantern, which was 1,000 feet in size, expanded rapidly and then exploded with a loud bang. Countless dazzling beams of light pierced through the sky and swept in all directions. The sky changed color and waves of air shot into the sky. As the chaotic red waves of air whistled, a few sharp figures that looked like heavenly soldiers and generals quickly flew out. Buzz! In the next moment, a piercingly cold spear light pierced through the sky and rushed towards Tuoba Shah's position. Bang! Rocks collapsed and the ground cracked. The terrifying shockwave directly flattened a layer of soil that was dozens of meters high. Rocks of all sizes were sent flying. Tuoba Shah felt like he was hit by a violent mudslide and was once again sent flying. He crashed into a mountain and half of it collapsed. Then, he spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground, unable to get up. A few Saint-armored guardsmen flew over, and 2 silver-armored guardsmen swung out a thick iron chain. The iron chain that was spitting out a bright golden light was like 2 pythons, coiling around Tuoba Shah's limbs and neck. Then, Tuoba Shah was like a wild beast in the hands of a hunter, lifted into the air. Roar! At the same time, a huge beast with an arm span of more than 1,000 meters came through the clouds. It was a huge beast with a head that looked like the legendary Qilin. But what was different was that this beast had a pair of wings, and its shape was more like a horse, handsome Qilin beast. A level 9 beast emperor, a terrifying existence comparable to a level 9 profound world realm warrior. If it appeared in the downtown area, it would definitely cause a huge commotion. The 2 silver-armored guards lifted Tuoba Shah and flew onto the back of the Qilin beast. Tuoba Shah, who was heavily injured, had no power to fight back at all. He fell to the ground powerlessly. Then, an iron cage that was dozens of meters wide and tall descended from the sky, directly covering Tuoba Shah's head and trapping him inside. Even though Tuoba Shah had lost the ability to fight back, this group of people still cleanly used a series of equipment. This was enough to prove that they were well trained and were definitely not ordinary powerhouses. "You guys take him back first," the man in golden armor said faintly. Then, coldness flashed through his calm eyes as he sneered. "I'll go take care of that little mouse." "Yes," a few silver-armored guards replied in a low voice. Meanwhile, Tuoba Shah, who was locked in the iron cage, could not help but change his expression. He lifted his eyelids slightly and then closed them powerlessly. Whoosh! At this moment, Chu Hen was using his fastest speed to get away from the area behind him. He continuously used the light-shaking body technique. Ray after ray of bright silver light flashed on the ground, as dazzling as the meteors in the night sky. Chu Hen was almost flying close to the ground. If he flew too high, he would be too obvious and would be easily discovered. In just a short period of time, Chu Hen had already crossed over a dozen mountain peaks and traversed a distance of 200 to 300 kilometers. But just when Chu Hen thought that he had successfully left and did not attract the attention of those people, his heart suddenly skipped a beat. Disbelief and shock instantly filled Chu Hen's face. What? He suddenly felt a powerful aura chasing after him at an extremely fast speed. The distance between the two of them was quickly closing. He had been discovered in the end. Chapter 7:17. How could this be? When he felt the powerful aura rapidly closing in on him, Chu Hen's expression changed. He had been discovered. Isn't this a little too surprising? How strong was that person's cultivation? At this moment, Chu Hen did not dare to guess. Swoosh! Immediately, Chu Hen sped up again and used the Alcade light movement technique to its limit. Dazzling silver beams of light bypassed the mountains and forests. At the same time, a powerful Reiki energy was released from his Naiwan palace. Hundreds of resplendent runes connected from the front to the back, connected from head to tail, and immediately gathered at Chu Hen's feet. A pair of light shadow battle boots that overflowed with brilliant lights could be faintly seen under Chu Hen's feet. Swoosh! Under the support of the rune technique, Chu Hen's speed had astonishingly doubled. He was like an aurora flying through the air. Wherever he passed, a powerful wave of air would appear in the air. He's faster. At this moment, the golden armored guard chasing behind had a hint of surprise on his face. Then, the corners of his mouth curled up slightly as he smiled with interest. Interesting mouse. Swoosh. In the next moment, the golden armored man's speed also increased explosively. In the void, only a shadow could be seen flying, and even his figure could not be seen clearly. The two sides had already begun a chase. However, the golden armored man's cultivation and speed were far from what Chu Hen could compare to. In less than half a cup of tea's time, the golden armored man had already arrived in the area behind Chu Hen. Looking at the rapidly moving figure in front of him, a frivolous expression appeared on the golden armored man's face. Buzz! The cold spear in his hand suddenly swallowed and spat out a bright golden pattern. Threads of light intertwined on the body of the spear like spiritual vines. It shone brightly, as if it had been soaked in the holy light of the sun. An extremely restless and powerful destructive aura erupted. However, the figure below did not seem to notice that danger was approaching and continued to move forward without looking back. Humph! The holy armored man pointed his spear downwards with a cold look in his eyes. Along with an incomparably powerful destructive aura, a spear light suddenly burst out and pierced forward like a rainbow. The terrifying flames caused the space around them to distort. The golden spear continued to expand as it moved, instantly growing to 1,000 meters in length. It was like a pillar of divine light that descended from the heavens as it smashed against the mountain peak before that figure. Boom! The mountains collapsed and the earth cracked. The earth exploded and the stars exploded. The earth-shattering power flattened the mountain peak in an instant. Tens of thousands of rays of golden light shot into the sky and spread in all directions. Countless boulders burst and tumbled. The raging waves of power directly crushed towards the figure below. The unstoppable shock wave then drowned the other party within it. However, immediately afterwards, that figure actually exploded into countless tiny talisman fragments, completely disappearing under the powerful shockwave substitution rune technique. Seeing this scene below, the holy armored man couldn't help but narrow his eyes. His face faintly revealed a hint of coldness. This is a little interesting. Immediately after, the holy armored man turned around and returned to where he came from. However, after searching for a while, the holy armored man was surprised to find that Chu Hen's aura had actually disappeared. He didn't know where he was hiding. The holy armored man stood proudly in the sky as his sharp eyes swept across the mountains and rivers below. The undulating mountain range stretched as far as the eye could see, and the lush forest was like a vast and endless blue sea. It seems that this mouse has a treasure that can hide his aura. The holy armored man quickly guessed the reason behind it. Then, with a move of his palm, the cold spear in his hand once again blossomed with a dazzling cold light. Buzz! 1,000-meter-long spear light blasted down with the momentum of a thunderbolt. The violent impact was completely vented on the mountain peak below. Bang! The mountain peak was instantly flattened. A large area of fresh soil, sand, and rocks were turned over, and the trees and plants were crushed into powder. In the blink of an eye, the mountain peak disappeared without a trace. After flattening a mountain peak, the holy armored guard did not stop at all. Instead, it flew toward the next mountain peak and flattened it once again. The opponent's idea was very simple. It wanted to flatten the mountain range within a few hundred miles. With Chu Hen's strength, he definitely wouldn't be able to escape this area. As long as Chu Hen moved casually, the holy armored guard would be able to sense his aura. Humph, let's see how long you can hide. The holy armored guard was not anxious at all. Every time it attacked, it directly collapsed the mountains, filled up the rivers, and reversed the waterfalls, mountains disappeared one after another, and fresh brown soil was all turned over. The thick layer of rocks on the surface was scraped off one after another, and huge pits extended and expanded, appearing under the blue dome of heaven. Just as the holy armored guard thought, at this moment, Chu Hen was hiding in a crack in the rock wall of a valley. Chu Hen held his breath, not even daring to breathe loudly. He completely withdrew the true inner force in his body. With the help of the breath-concealing pearl, Chu Hen's current state was similar to that of a rock. Boom! Bang! Rocks crumbled as a powerful and terrifying force gushed out like a flood. The holy armored guard swept through all the major areas, and soon arrived at the area where Chu Hen was. A peerlessly powerful spear aura, like a divine punishment from the heavens, bombarded the mountain peak less than 200 meters away from Chu Hen. The extremely fierce impact force swept across the entire mountain, leaving countless deep cracks all over the mountain wall. At this moment, the majestic mountain peak was like a fragile tofu dregs, collapsing layer by layer and exploding inch by inch. The entire mountain range instantly turned into nothingness. Rocks filled the sky, together with a monstrous cloud of dust, flew wantonly. Chu Hen mixed with the rocks and was thrown out. Rocks of various sizes collided with Chu Hen's body, but under these circumstances, Chu Hen could only let the chaotic force attack him recklessly. He completely used the strength of his body to resist, not daring to use any true inner force at all. Fortunately, Chu Hen possessed the chaotic body, and his body was extremely tough. It was far beyond what ordinary people could compare to. Even so, a series of rocks fell, and Chu Hen was already covered in cuts and bruises. If it were an ordinary person, they would have most likely been blasted into a bloody mess. Rumble! The towering rocks directly buried Chu Hen 4 or 5 meters below the surface of the rubble. The holy armored guard searched the area for a while, and then rushed to the next mountain. It's gone. Chu Hen let out a sigh of relief. Finally, he managed to hide from them without any mishaps. However, Chu Hen was still lying under the pile of rocks, motionless. Although he had escaped once, as long as he climbed out, he would still be discovered by the guard and killed on the spot. For safety's sake, it was best to wait for the guard to completely leave before leaving. Although Chu Hen was as quiet as a rock, his heart was in turmoil, and all kinds of turbulent waves were set off. The cultivation of the person outside was truly terrifyingly strong. What grievances did Tuoba Shah have with him? How did he provoke such a terrifying enemy? Moreover, from Chu Hen's point of view, this holy armored guard seemed to only have a mission to capture Tuoba Shah. In other words, there was an even more terrifying existence behind the guard in this world. The anger of the strong could destroy mountains and rivers with a wave of their sleeves. Just where was the limit of the peak of martial arts? At this moment, Chu Hen did not dare to think about it. Rumble! A series of loud noises came from afar, and the ground shook uneasily. Rocks tumbled endlessly. Chu Hen secretly shook his head. Fortunately, the source of the power was a distance away from him. If that terrifying power had directly attacked him from above, even if he did not die, he would have lost half of his life. However, the turbulence was getting further and further away, and the other party was also gradually moving away. Chu Hen couldn't help but relax a bit, and carefully and gently let out a breath. Then, a familiar voice sounded in his mind. Chapter 7:18. Don't be careless, that person is back. The familiar voice of the sacred-winged heavenly flame sparrow was transmitted to Chu Hen's mind. Chu Hen was shocked. He once again held his breath and tensed up. As expected, after a while, Chu Hen felt a dangerous and vigorous aura fly over him, heading in the direction he had been before. Rumble! What followed was the thunderous sound of rocks crashing into each other. Once again, the opponent began to search the area that he had previously searched. No way? Again? Chu Hen felt a headache coming on. This person was simply crazy. His thoughts were actually so meticulous. If he had to endure that kind of violent impact again, Chu Hen would definitely have a few broken bones. Kill my way out? Chu Hen secretly asked. Sure. Don't blame me if you die. The sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow sneered disdainfully. I'm asking if you have any ideas? Don't joke around. The chances of success, if you go all out, aren't very high. I'll cover you. You move to the place that he had previously searched. That way you can effectively avoid his search, all right? Soon after, a strand of colorful light that faintly resembled a gauze diffused out from Chu Hen's body. Immediately after, Chu Hen suddenly felt that his body became exceptionally light, and the skin on his body became a lot more illusory, looking a bit close to transparent. I can directly pass through rocks and move through piles of rocks? Chu Hen was surprised to find that his body could actually pass through rocks of all sizes. It was as if he was using the wall passing technique. He could move freely through the rock stratum. Stop talking nonsense. This technique consumes a lot of energy. Let's hurry to the next place. The sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow said. Got it. At this moment, Chu Hen felt for the first time that this dead bird was somewhat useful. At the very least, it could still help him at a critical moment. Immediately, Chu Hen quietly moved through the underground rock stratum. Soon, he arrived at an area that the Saint Armored Guardian had previously searched. Boom! The Holy Armored Guardian continued to launch fierce attacks again and again. The terrifying power of the spear was extremely astonishing. The ruins that had been flattened earlier were once again crushed into powder by the powerful impact. One after another, huge pits covered the ground. Countless deep cracks were like faults in the ground, forming dark fissures in the ground. Every time the other party changed places and arrived at the next area, Chu Hen would arrive at the location he had previously searched. This way, it was equivalent to Chu Hen constantly moving behind the Holy Armored Guard. Who would have thought that the person he was looking for was right behind him? After a fruitless search, the Holy Armored Guard could not help but reveal a gloomy expression. An icy chill surged in his eyes. How strange! Could it be that the kid had escaped into the sky? There was no reason for that. With the other party's speed, it was impossible for him to escape right under his nose. However, under a series of indiscriminate attacks, the other party would definitely not be able to hide. The atmosphere between heaven and earth seemed to have become a little more silent. After a short period of silence, the corners of the Holy Armored Guard's mouth raised indifferently. You're too naive to think that you can escape from me. Boom! In the next moment, a majestic and monstrous aura suddenly erupted from the Holy Armored Guard's body. It sat cross-legged in the void and loosened its grip on the spear in its hand, allowing it to float beside it. His hands continuously formed all kinds of complicated hand seals. Then, tens of thousands of dazzling golden lights bloomed from his body. The sky and earth were illuminated with a sparkling golden light. A magnificent golden light screen spread out in all directions like a cloud. It spread out majestically, like a huge curtain of light that covered the sky. What is this guy trying to do? Chu Hen, who was hiding under the rubble, could not help but feel a little confused. The sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow's tone was slightly cautious. It's a large-scale attack. I won't be able to escape this time. What? As soon as he finished speaking, a terrifying destructive power suddenly appeared outside. Boom! The eyes of the Holy Armored Guard, who was floating in the void, suddenly burst with two cold rays of light. It put its hands together and completed the last seal. Ming Luo's Massacre! Ming Luo's Massacre rumble! In an instant, the space within a radius of dozens of miles immediately fell into a state of violent distortion. The sky suddenly changed, and everything became bright. Countless golden light pillars erupted from the vast sky curtain that shrouded the void. Every light pillar was as sharp as the sharp spear and sword shadows, emitting a terrifying penetrative power. Tens of thousands of light beams rained down from the sky, blasting towards the rubble below. Such a magnificent scene was like a dozen suns shining brightly at the same time. Bang, bang, the huge rocks on the mountain range were crushed into powder. Layers upon layers of rocks, earth, and trees disappeared, all of them shattered by the dense light beams. What? Chu Hen, who was hiding under the rubble, had a drastic change of expression. His pupils immediately shrank to the size of a needle-tip. In the next instant, the boundless aurora poured down like tidewater and poured over. Boom! The mountains trembled and the earth split open. The area within a radius of dozens of miles instantly became a land of death. The light pillars that were filled with endless destructive power formed a death ray. The rubble that shot into the sky seemed to have been swept into a storm and were all pierced and shattered by the sword-like light pillars. There he is. The saint-armored guard looked up coldly and his sharp gaze swept across the area behind him. I see. The man's face revealed a hint of surprise. No wonder he could not find him. It turned out that he had been moving behind him all along. Looks like he's a smart person. Unfortunately, he thinks he's smart. Boom! In an instant, the area where Chu Hen was directly penetrated by the extremely powerful light pillars for hundreds of meters. In the next second, his aura disappeared completely and he completely disappeared from the world. Has he been smashed into pieces? A disdainful smile appeared on the holy armored guard's face. However, the next moment, his smile could not help but freeze. At the same time, his eyes were filled with deep disbelief. At this moment, in a lush forest 500 to 600 miles away, boom! A sudden loud sound echoed in the quiet forest. The birds and beasts nearby were frightened and ran away in panic. Along with a dazzling light, a slightly disheveled young figure appeared out of nowhere in this area. He smashed through more than 10 trees before falling heavily to the ground, sending a large number of leaves flying. Chapter 719. Boom! A sudden heavy sound broke the silence of the lush forest. Birds and beasts flew away in fright and fled in panic. More than 10 trees were broken by a figure in a sorry state. Dead branches and leaves on the ground were sent flying and dragged on the ground for dozens of meters before the figure finally stopped. In the end, he still couldn't avoid using that item. Chu Hen lay on the ground powerlessly. His entire body was sore and he felt as if his bones were about to fall apart. He held an exquisitely crafted jade pendant tightly in his right hand. A gentle white light lingered on the jade pendant like gossamer. Then, a slight cracking sound rang in the air. A tiny crack immediately appeared on the jade pendant. It looked a little conspicuous. It could still be used twice. This jade pendant was given to Chu Hen by the mysterious person who took Luo Mengchang away on the night she left. In times of danger, it could save his life 3 times. Chu Hen treasured these 3 chances very much. He wouldn't use it unless he had no other choice. However, he didn't expect that the saint-armored guard's strength to be so terrifying. In the end, Chu Hen still used the power of the jade pendant once. Of course, no matter what, his life was saved. This was still the most important thing. At the same time, Chu Hen also understood that the jade pendant's function was to instantly complete a spatial transfer in times of danger. This place was about 500 to 600 kilometers away from where he was just now. Unless that person could rely on luck to choose the right direction, he wouldn't be able to find this place. Phew! Chu Hen let out a deep sigh of relief. Then, he turned over and laid on the ground with his face up. His gaze passed through the branches and looked at the azure sky. That was close. I almost died. This victorious East State is indeed full of crouching tigers and hidden dragons. Now you know that you were a frog at the bottom of a well? The sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow's mocking voice was heard. Humph! You only know how to make sarcastic remarks, Chu Hen retorted. I'm speaking the truth. To you, that person is indeed very strong, but if I was at my peak, killing him would only be a matter of a thought. You're amazing! You're amazing to be sealed in the 10,000 Beasts Ridge. Perhaps he had poked at the other party's weak spot, but after Chu Hen said that, the sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow immediately fell silent. "Dead bird?" Chu Hen called out tentatively. The other party did not reply. Chu Hen pursed his lips and did not say anything more. He began to circulate the true core force in his body to heal his injuries. About half an hour later, Chu Hen sat up, his eyes glowing faintly. With a flip of his palm, he took out the iron box that Tuoba Shah had given him. The surface of the box was painted with exquisite and complex dark golden patterns, and a cold sensation was transmitted to his fingertips. Chu Hen's expression couldn't help but turn solemn. What exactly was inside? Were those people targeting Tuoba Shah because of this? Previously, when Tuoba Shah's family was exterminated, was it also because of this? After a brief moment of hesitation, Chu Hen's mind moved, and a strand of vigorous true core force flowed out of his fingertips and surged toward the iron box. Buzz buzz. Immediately after, the iron box released an extremely restless fluctuation. Streaks of icy blue light immediately covered the top and bottom of the iron box, looking like a blue spider web covering it. Almost at the same time, a bone-piercing chill surged into Chu Hen's body. In that instant, Chu Hen felt as if he had fallen into an ice cave. He couldn't help but shiver. An incomparably sinister dark aura surged over like a tide, occupying Chu Hen's mind from top to bottom. This aura. Chu Hen's expression changed slightly, and he furrowed his brows, hurriedly withdrawing his true core force. What a frightening evil aura! This iron box gave Chu Hen the feeling that there was a ferocious and frightening ancient beast locked inside, and he did not even have the courage to open it. Senior Tuoba seemed to have asked me to destroy the thing inside. From this, it can be seen that the thing inside is not something good or auspicious. Chu Hen thought to himself. Looking at the blue crystal web covering it, it was obvious that this was the seal that sealed the iron box. Such caution meant that the thing inside was no small matter. With his current level of cultivation, no one could guarantee what would happen if he rashly opened it. After some contemplation, Chu Hen decided to keep it with him for the time being. He would find an opportunity in the future to see if he could follow Tuoba Shah's instructions. Immediately after, Chu Hen put the iron box into his storage ring. He then stood up and looked at the vast sky in front of him with a deep gaze. He clenched his fists slightly, and his eyes flashed with determination. He muttered in a low voice, "Senior Tuoba, I am powerless right now. If there is a day in the future when my cultivation is high enough, I will definitely rescue you." After saying this, Chu Hen did not stay here any longer. He turned into a stream of light and disappeared. Half a month later. Deer Chasing City. After a few twists and turns, Chu Hen finally arrived at the place that he had agreed upon with Haozi and the others. This was a city that was about the same size as Shanghai City, and the population was quite impressive. The wide streets were filled with people from all walks of life. There were only about 4 months left before the opening of the ancient desolate heaven territory. The various forces began to fight for the heaven and earth black-yellow token with all their might. It could be said that the remaining 4 months would definitely be the most chaotic period in the victorious East State. When Chu Hen entered the city, he felt a few cold and unfriendly gazes from the dark. Chu Hen's expression was calm. He did not care about the hidden crowd at all. Squeak squeak, however, at this moment, a weak sound suddenly entered Chu Hen's ears. This sound. It sounded like a mouse? Chu Hen's gaze subconsciously turned towards the crack of a rock in a secluded corner of the street. Focusing his gaze, he saw that in the crack of the rock, there was a white furry little fellow curled up there. A pair of small black eyes were looking at Chu Hen. Senior Brother Haozi's pet? Chu Hen was slightly stunned. He knew this little fellow. It was a small demonic beast known as the Golden Nibbling Mouse. In the past, when he was in Tensei Prefecture, Haozi had shown it to Chu Hen and Mu Feng. Because Rat was able to communicate with rodent-type demonic beasts, Mu Feng had once encouraged Rat to order this little golden cheetah mouse to steal the underwear of female students in the academy. Everyone didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Subsequently, Chu Hen walked toward the corner of the street and squatted down in front of it. "Little fellow, did senior brother Hausi ask you to find me?" Chirp chirp, the little golden nibbling mouse seemed to be able to understand Chu Hen's words and let out 2 soft cries. It seemed like he was right. "Where are they?" Chu Hen asked. The little golden nibbling mouse came out from the crack and pointed in a direction with its little paw. This direction was not inside Julu City, but outside the city. Chu Hen's eyelids twitched. He was slightly surprised. Chapter 720. Outside Julu City. About 50 miles away, in an abandoned manor. Mountains surrounded the manor in the distance. Nearby there was a pavilion close by. This was a relatively good area, but the huge manor seemed to have been abandoned for a long time. Every corner exuded an aura of desolation and decay. Screech, above the sky, an eagle soared into the sky. In the center of the manor stood a pavilion that was nearly 100 meters tall. This pavilion was the only building in the entire manor that was still in good condition. It looked relatively grand at this moment. The outer layer of the pavilion was covered in a layer of brilliant light golden patterns. The light patterns were like a curtain of water attached to the stone walls of the pavilion. The most surprising thing was that there was an awe-inspiring giant eagle at the top of the pavilion. This giant eagle was not a real demonic beast, but an illusory golden shadow. But even so, the aura it emitted was comparable to a genuine beast king ferocious being. The golden eagle perched at the top of the pavilion, like a guardian divine beast that guarded the land of the gods. Everything around it dared not approach it. At this moment, there were 8 or 9 people gathered on the spacious square in front of the pavilion. "It's already the 15th day. When will senior brother Shanzhen complete his breakthrough?" Hua Shui said anxiously. "It should be soon," Su Lang said. "You've said this 5 or 6 times. You only know how to bluff." Hua Shui was slightly dissatisfied. The others also looked at each other in confusion. Su Lang was a little speechless as he shook his head and said, "Senior brother Shanzhen's bloodline limit is a little special. When others make a breakthrough, they do it step by step. However, senior brother Shanzhen's bloodline limit is well prepared. His bloodline limit will automatically store energy for him, and when the stored energy reaches a certain value, he will directly make a huge breakthrough. Therefore, the time it takes to make a breakthrough is also relatively long." The others were slightly startled and could not help but feel a little surprised. In other words, senior brother Shanzhen will not only reach the first level of the Earth Profound Realm? Fu Qin asked. "That's right. He will at least reach the 2nd level, or even the 3rd level. Wow! So powerful!" Hua Shui exclaimed enviously. "Now our fairy palace also has a disciple in the profound world realm." Su Lang smiled and shook his head. "Aren't you guys underestimating senior brother Danzhen's abilities too much? Do you really think that there are no talents in our flying immortal palace? Usually, everyone hides their strength, but when it's time to show it, there aren't many who are weak." "Indeed." Ling Tao nodded in agreement. "To be honest, Nangong Hao of the Demon Slayer Palace and Lung Lingyan of the Void Palace are much stronger than we thought." At the mention of Nangong Hao and Lung Lingyan, everyone immediately thought of the Heaven and Earth mystic yellow token. "I don't know where Chu Hen went. We haven't seen him for almost a month. If we had known, we wouldn't have left him there alone." Hua Shui complained in a low voice. They frowned slightly. Indeed, the one they were most worried about was Chu Hen. Previously, when Haozi, Nongqi, and Hua Shui returned to Julu City, they told everyone about what happened to Yi Yao. After everyone heard it, they sighed endlessly. After so long, no one could guarantee what choice Chu Hen would make. "Don't worry. I know Chu Hen. He will definitely find us," Haozi said to everyone with certainty. Suddenly, Nongqi's heart trembled. She frowned and shouted coldly, "Someone is coming!" Everyone was shocked. "Who is it? Is it Chu Hen?" Ji Shu asked. Boom! As soon as he finished speaking, a gust of cold and sinister wind swept towards them from all directions. "Everyone be careful, it's the people from the blood refining hall." What? As expected, in the next moment, more than 10 gloomy figures with strong auras flashed over from afar. The person in the lead had a sickly pale complexion. It was Liao Rui, who they met in Shanghai City previously. Everyone, it's really hard for us to find you. Why are you hiding in such a shabby place?" Liao Rui smiled lightly and his eyes were filled with deep playfulness. Everyone from Mount Kunliu's side looked solemn. The reason why they left Zhulu City, and came to this place to wait for Dan Zhen's breakthrough, was to avoid some hostile forces from interfering. Now, there were only 4 months left before the opening of the ancient Desolation Heaven territory. All the major regions were in the most chaotic period. In order to fight for the Heaven and Earth Mystic Yellow Token, all kinds of unexpected situations could happen. Mount Kunliu and the Blood Refining Hall were mortal enemies. In addition, Chu Hen had cheated Liao Rui of 2.3 billion upper-grade primordial crystal stones at the Baitsong Tower auction previously. This made them hold a grudge. Therefore, the Blood Refining Hall had been searching for the whereabouts of Mount Kunliu and the others. Chu Hen wasn't here. Dan Zhen was at the critical moment of breakthrough again. The situation at Mount Kunliu's side suddenly became extremely dangerous. What to do? "Senior Brother Haozi, please take them and leave first," Su Lang said in a deep voice. "What about you?" Haozi asked. "Lingtao and I will bring up the rear. This is what Senior Brother Shan Zhen told us before. Once we encounter an irreversible crisis, we don't have to care about him anymore." Su Lang's words were especially heavy. It was obvious that he didn't want to do so. However, the two of them and Dan Zhen often went out on team missions, so they always followed Dan Zhen's orders. Under such circumstances, there was no need to put up a fight when they knew that the outcome would be failure. "Since that's the case, I should bring up the rear. You guys go first," Haozi said decisively. The few of them faintly trembled and immediately said while playing the zither, "Senior Brother Zhou, this is the grudge between Mount Kunliu and the Blood Refining Hall. It has nothing to do with you. You should leave. However, you guys are also Chu Hen's friends. Based on this, I can't just stand by and watch." Boom! As soon as he finished speaking, a brilliant white light was released from Haozi's body, and a shadow of a heavenly rat loomed behind him. "No one wants to leave. Then, let's fight." "Let's fight." Haozi stepped on the air, and took the lead to turn into a flowing light, rushing towards Liao Rui. Seeing this, everyone's blood was boiling and their fighting spirit was immediately high. "Humph, reckless!" Liao Rui sneered. Then he raised his hand and waved, saying, "Kill them all. Leave no one alive. Kill." In an instant, the two sides collided head-on like a group of fierce beasts fighting. Bang! Haozi and Liao Rui bore the brunt and collided head-on with each other. A mass of mighty true inner force light pattern bloomed brilliantly between heaven and earth. "Huashue, you retreat to the back." Su Lang raised his hand and drew out his sword. Dozens of powerful sword chi chopped at the people of the Blood Refining Hall in front of him. After all, Huashue was just a medical spiritual tattooist, and was not good at fighting. Her best choice was to retreat to the back area to watch the fight. "I've become the most useless one again," Huashue curled her lips. She was both helpless and anxious, and prayed secretly. "Senior Brother Shanjun, you have to hurry up. If you don't come out, we will all die. And Chu Hen, you'd better be on your way, or you'll be waiting for us to collect the corpses." "Woo. I'm such a lovely girl, but I'm not married yet. I don't want to be a beauty with a short life." At this moment, in a deep valley, a huge colorful snake was swimming in the woods. Wherever the colorful snake went, birds and beasts fled, and many evil beasts dared not to approach it. Whoosh! At this time, a cold man in cyan flashed here. His cold pupils were vertical, which was actually a pair of demonic snake pupils. Chapter 7:21. Boom! A fierce battle immediately broke out in this abandoned manor. On the side of Mount Kunliu, except for Hua Shui, the medical master, and Shan Zhen, who was in the attic, all of them went to battle with the enemies of the blood refining hall. As the only master of the profound world realm at present, Haozi naturally fought with Liao Rui, who was the strongest on the other side. As soon as they fought, the two of them were engaged in a fierce battle. Lava killing fist. Qi Ting let out a furious roar. An incomparably ferocious giant rock fist was thrown out. What was different from the past was that this time the fist was actually dark red in color. An incomparably scorching airwave spread out, as if it was formed from the lava inside the volcano. Humph! Insignificant skill. His opponent sneered and pushed out his palm to meet the attack with disdain. Bang! The mighty palm energy and the fierce fist energy collided with each other, causing a heavy explosion that sounded like a clap of thunder. A dense mass of air then spread out. Although Qi Ting's punch could not hurt his opponent, he did not retreat. Qi Ting and Lu Qi, who were originally the weakest in the team, after consuming the Dragon Saliva Saint Pellet and Tiger Power Heavenly Pill that Chu Hen had auctioned for them, their cultivation had also increased by a large margin, from the original 5th stage of the void-piercing realm to the 8th stage. Of course, under normal circumstances, 2 elixirs were not enough for them to improve their strength so fast in such a short time. But later, Hua Shui specially made an auxiliary elixir for them, Yunxiang Powder. With the help of Yunxiang Powder, Qi Ting and Lu Qi could absorb the efficacy of the 2 elixirs to the greatest extent in the shortest time. Thus, their cultivation reached the current level. In the chaotic battle, all kinds of fierce power wantonly burst out and splashed, which made the abandoned manor even more fragmented, with broken walls. The people of Mount Kunliu stayed here with the determination to cut off all means of retreat. Everyone tried their best to break out the strongest fighting form, without any reservation. What they were afraid of was fighting with their lives. In contrast, the blood refining hall came here today just to kill all the people from Mount Kunliu. Naturally, they would not risk their lives to fight with them. However, their advantage in numbers had allowed them to establish their chances of winning early on. Boom! A circle of intense light patterns exploded in midair, setting off waves of dust and smoke that filled the sky. Qi Ting and Lu Qi were defeated one after another. After all, it was a realm that was achieved through the use of pills. Without a certain amount of time to stabilize it, the thickness of one's true origin energy would be slightly weaker. Both of them were hit by the enemy's attack. They spat out a mouthful of blood and were sent flying from the sky. The people of the blood refining hall took advantage of the situation and rose up. They seemed to want to chase and kill the 2 people. "Heh, you dare to challenge us with just this bit of skill? You must be tired of living. Kill these 2 useless people." "That's exactly what I was thinking, he. Seeing that Qi Ting and Lu Qi were about to die, the faces of the Mount Kunliu experts changed drastically. Unfortunately, no one could step forward to rescue him. They could only watch helplessly. Buzz! But at this moment, 2 holy white beams suddenly attacked from the rear area and hit the backs of Qi Ting and Lu Qi respectively. In an instant, the 2 people's bodies bloomed with a dazzling holy brilliance. What was more amazing was that the 2 people's dispirited breaths rose again. The next moment, Qi Ting and Lu Qi's eyes turned cold and they burst out a powerful momentum respectively. Giant rock cracking earth collapse. Swaying wind and rain kill. Boom! The ground cracked and bulged up. Along with a powerful aura, a huge earth dragon immediately soared into the sky from the ground, sweeping up a powerful might as it roared out. On Lu Qi's side, the wind and rain fell together, and the hurricane was shocking. Countless crystal-clear water droplets instantly turned into cold and sharp arrows, which pierced through the air and cracked the air. The momentum was like flowing light, pouring down with an overwhelming momentum. What? The two masters of the blood refining hall all changed their faces and were extremely shocked. Bang! One of them was directly hit in the chest by the earth dragon with monstrous momentum. His bones were broken and his chest was sunken. His internal organs were all damaged. He fell to the ground like a sandbag, and it seemed that he would not survive. On the other hand, the other person was even penetrated into a sieve by the dense and sharp water arrows, causing blood to splatter and gush out explosively from his entire body, and he instantly lost his life. In the blink of an eye, Qi Ting and Lu Qi actually completed a strong counterattack, which really shocked everyone. The two people's breaths were obviously much steadier, and they didn't look like they were injured at all. Hee, how could I be the most useless? A playful voice came from the rear area of the battle. Everyone in Mount Kunliu was stunned and their eyes turned to Hua Shui, who was outside the battle. They saw Hua Shui sitting under the attic with many dazzling runes lingering around her body. The gorgeous runes were like stars revolving around the sun. Hua Shui revealed the celestial qi that had never been seen before. Is it the art of accumulating divine vitality? Ji Shu said subconsciously. The art of accumulating divine vitality? The moment Su Lang, Ling Tao, Fu Qin, and the rest heard this name, their faces were filled with shock. Even the eyes of Liao Rui and the rest from the blood refining sect turned cold. This was the supreme secret skill that was known as the most powerful healing skill in Mount Kunliu. It was a top-notch secret skill even in the entire Eastern Victory State. The art of accumulating divine vitality could allow the injured to recover from their injuries in an extremely short time, up to 1 second. In other words, as long as they were not killed in one blow, they basically wouldn't die. Little girl, when did you learn the accumulating spirit Saint Qi technique? Why didn't you tell me earlier? Fu Qin, who had knocked away a man from the blood refining sect with a sword, scolded coldly. It's in the mysterious flying celestial realm. I forgot about it before. Hua Shui said innocently. Everyone was completely defeated by the other party. How could they forget about such a thing? However, other than being surprised, the morale of the people from Mount Kunliu was greatly boosted. With the powerful support of Hua Shui, what was there to be afraid of? All of you just fight with all your might. I guarantee the safety of all of you. Boom! Hua Shui quickly operated the art of accumulating divine vitality. With her as the center, between the heavens and the earth, countless dazzling and beautiful light patterns were intertwined. The runes that filled the sky were like spiritual butterflies and spiritual geese, and they quickly swept towards the people of Mount Kunliu. Buzz! Beams of dazzling light penetrated into the bodies of the people from Mount Kunliu. All of them began to have a touch of white light that was as thin as a veil. An extremely rich life force was released from their bodies. Haha, awesome! Su Lang laughed loudly, and his momentum soared to the sky. The sharp sword in his hand slashed down like a divine ray, and the throat of a disciple of the blood refining sect was cut off on the spot. The other people from Mount Kunliu also rose up one after another. They were fearless and no longer had any restrictions. In this way, the people from the blood refining sect couldn't help but be annoyed. They didn't expect that Hua Shui, who was so young, had mastered the strongest healing skill of Mount Kunliu. It was really surprising. Boom! Liao Rui and Haozi hit each other with their palms. The powerful and mighty true inner force burst out from within, causing the space to shake uneasily. Humph! If you think that you can stop us like this, then you are really too naive. After that, a cold and evil aura burst out from Liao Rui's body. He condensed one of his hands in the void, and an illusory gray light pattern was like an endless tide that blotted out the sky and the earth, sweeping in all directions. Buzz, buzz, the next moment, all kinds of noisy and uneasy chaotic sounds were startled from the surroundings. The mighty black tide surged towards this area from far to near. And this black tide was actually made up of thousands of poisonous insects, snakes, and ants. They flew in the sky, crawled on the ground, fell on the grass, and swam in the water. All kinds of poisonous insects, snakes, and ants emitted bright and beautiful colors. Their momentum was like a demon army, and they rushed towards the people from Mount Kunliu with the momentum of besieging and killing. Chapter 7:22. Buzz, buzz, overwhelming black waves surged from all directions, and the mighty army of venomous insects, snakes, and ants exuded a particularly terrifying evil aura. Giant bees, fire ants, poisonous mosquitoes, and so on, all kinds of dangerous poisonous creatures made people's scalps numb. In addition to their huge bodies, these poisonous creatures also had amazing attacking power. They were not ordinary poisons, but powerful killing weapons refined by people of the Blood Refining Hall in various unorthodox ways. The Blood Refining Hall was originally an evil sect. This sect would often refine some poisonous insects and poisonous creatures as their killing method. Looking at the overwhelming poisonous creatures in front of them, everyone in Mount Kunliu frowned and felt their scalps numb unconsciously. Humph, today I will kill all of you without leaving any bones. Liao Rui's gloomy and cold pupils flashed with thick coldness and complacency. Under his control, the overwhelming poisonous insects, snakes, and ants were divided into 3 groups and launched an attack. One group rushed to Hua Shui, one group rushed to the attic, and the other group attacked the people in Mount Kunli. Hua Shui, who possessed the top medical skill accumulating divine vitality skill, became the first target of the Blood Refining Hall. Danjun, who was in the attic and might break through at any time, was also a potential threat. They must kill her as soon as possible. Comparatively, the other people in Mount Kunliu were not too big a threat. Help! So many insects! As a girl, Hua Shui's face turned pale. She curled up and was about to cry. The faces of the people in Mount Kunliu changed again and again. The number of these poisonous insects, snakes, and ants was so great that it was impossible to guard against them. Suddenly, right at this moment, something even more astounding occurred. The ground below suddenly bulged up one by one. Then, the bulge broke open, and small furry heads came out from inside. Ah, Mom! So many rats! This time, Hua Shui was really scared to tears. Her voice was really penetrating. It was so loud that it made people's eardrums hurt. Watch your words. They are not rats but weasels. Some places call them ferrets. Haozi's speechless voice came. Hua Shui couldn't care less. She cried, anyway, they are all rats. I'm so scared. Most of the things that most girls were afraid of were nothing more than venomous insects and rats. Right now, the overwhelming number of venomous insects, snakes, and ants as well as the big rats that kept popping out had almost scared Hua Shui to the point of fainting. Then, before the people of Mount Kunliu and Blood Refining Hall could react, streaks of flowing light phantoms burst out from the potholes on the ground and directly plunged into the poisonous insects, snakes and ants, wantonly slaughtering them. What? This is? Shock surged in everyone's hearts once again, and they all looked at Rat with astonishment in their eyes. No one had expected that Liao Rui would summon such an army of poisonous insects, and Haozi would actually summon such a huge army of weasels. Weasels were small carnivorous creatures. From venomous insects and ants to venomous snakes and lizards, weasels preyed on everything. The aggressiveness of a weasel was astonishing. At this moment, the weasel army that Haozi summoned was not an ordinary wild beast, but a weasel beast. A small weasel beast was a demonic beast at the level of a spiritual beast. Not only did it have sharp teeth and claws, but it also had a very strong immunity to poison. In front of them, the numerous venomous insects and snakes could not gain any advantage at all. These weasel beasts were extremely fast. They turned into streaks of flowing light and pounced on the surrounding swarm of venomous insects. They opened their sharp teeth and either bit them to pieces or swallowed them directly into their stomachs. Moreover, among these weasel beasts, there was a large weasel with purplish-golden fur that was about half the height of a human. This was the king of the weasel beasts and had reached the level of a beast king. A single weasel beast was not scary, but this endless tide of rats was absolutely terrifying. The mighty weasel army was like a tide, fighting with the endless venomous insects, snakes, and ants. Big Gold, protect my friends. Don't let them get close to that attic. As Hausi attacked Liao Rui, he instructed the largest weasel king with purplish-golden fur below. Squeak, squeak. The purplish-golden weasel king responded repeatedly, and then let out a high-pitched and sharp howl, like a general who issued an order. The extremely fierce fighting constantly expanded the scope of the battle. The dense swarm of venomous insects, snakes, and ants collided with the mighty weasel group like two tides. Although the number of the former was dozens of times that of the weasel group, a weasel beast could devour and kill more than 100 venomous insects. Only those larger venomous snakes could barely compete with the weasels one-on-one, but the number of venomous snakes was obviously not enough. After a fierce fight, the weasel army blocked the army of venomous insects. Good job! Su Lang could not help but exclaim. Kill! Counter soldiers with arms and water with an earth weir. Under the leadership of Hausi, the team of Mount Kunliu managed to resist the continuous attacks of the blood-refining hall. Liao Rui was furious, and his eyes were full of killing intent. He never expected that the seemingly inconspicuous man with small eyes could communicate with the weasel family's evil beasts. To be honest, it was not difficult for the venomous insects they raised to kill the population of a small or medium-sized city. But today they met their nemesis. At the moment, the only way to win was to destroy the team of Mount Kunliu first and kill all these people. Go to hell! Liao Rui's gloomy face bulged with blue veins, and he attacked Hausi with all his strength. The surging palm strength released a torrent-like gray shock wave, and the terrible power was like a huge wave covering the sky. Hausi's eyes turned cold, and his genuine vitality rose. The surging genuine vitality quickly transformed into a golden heavenly rat phantom of 100 feet high behind him, majestic and awe-inspiring, like the king of rats. Boom! The two fierce and violent forces collided head-on, setting off monstrous air waves, and the surging light patterns splashed and danced wantonly between heaven and earth. The strong aftermath of the fierce wind whistled between heaven and earth. The battle between the two experts at the profound world realm caused the sky to be shrouded by the dark tide, and it was overshadowed. With the help of the weasel army, the situation at Mount Kunliu gradually stabilized. Meanwhile, Hua Shui, who was in the middle of the chaotic battle between the two groups of beasts, had long been scared silly. Although her tears had stopped, she was still sobbing like a little girl. So these rats are on our side. Look carefully, they are actually quite cute. Weasels were more inclined towards the appearance of a marten, and the fur on their bodies was worth 1,000 gold. To be honest, they were incomparable to ordinary rats in all aspects. And in this chaotic battle, the number of venomous insects, snakes, and ants was rapidly decreasing, but the weasel beasts also suffered many casualties. Immediately, Hua Shui straightened her posture and once again released the powerful power of the accumulating spirit Saint Chi technique. Rays of bright light patterns spread out and bounced onto the injured weasels. In the next moment, the injured and dying weasels once again glowed with exuberant vitality. One by one, they were revived and once again joined the chaotic battle. Squeak, squeak! Seeing this, the purple-gold weasel king could not help but let out a high-pitched squeak, as if expressing its gratitude to Hua Shui. Hua Shui blinked her eyes and smiled through her tears. You're welcome. The situation on both sides was developing towards a reversal. However, at this moment, a cold and gloomy aura suddenly swept towards this side. Everyone's heart was instantly shocked. A large number of weasels and venomous insects were all sent flying by an irresistible aura. Immediately after, an incomparably huge multicolored python appeared. What? Looking at this giant python, everyone turned pale with fright. This giant python's body was more than 400 to 500 meters long, and the aura it emitted suppressed everyone present. Even Haozi and Liao Rui, the two experts in the profound world realm, were frightened and fearful. Hiss, hiss! The multicolored giant python attacked at lightning speed, coiling around the imposing pavilion in the central area like a coiling dragon. The huge snake's body coiled around the inside and outside of the pavilion, as if it was coiling around a giant beast. Not good. Its target is senior brother Shan Zhen. Ling Tao's expression changed greatly, and he could not help but exclaim. Haozi, Fu Qin, Qi Ting, Hua Shui, and the others were also shocked and aghast. In comparison, the blood refining hall was secretly delighted. It seemed that Mount Kunlu did not only offend the blood refining hall, but also other forces. The enemy of my enemy is my ally. No matter what, this was definitely a pleasant surprise for the blood refining hall. Screech, seeing the multicolored giant python suddenly launch an attack, the golden claw heavenly eagle that was guarding Shanzhen in the sky above the pavilion let out a loud and clear cry. Then, it swooped down and pounced towards the giant python, as fast as lightning, a flowing light phantom. Facing the rapidly attacking golden claw heavenly eagle, the giant python opened its mouth wide, and a multicolored light pillar shot out from its mouth, directly hitting the golden claw heavenly eagle. Bang! An intense power swept out wantonly, and the terrifying power detonated the sky. Along with a violent thunderous sound, the golden claw heavenly eagle was directly sent flying. In the next moment, the giant python's entire body tightened, releasing a powerful pressure. The golden light patterns that covered the surface of the pavilion rapidly dimmed, and the shadow of the eagle that stopped at the top also quickly dimmed, quickly returning to a transparent color. Not good. Everyone in Mount Kunlu panicked. Once the pavilion was destroyed, Shanzhen, who was inside, would also be in danger. However, at this moment, no one could spare a hand to stop the other party. Even if they could spare a hand, no one was a match for this multicolored giant python. Densely packed cracks covered the inside and outside of the pavilion. It looked like a giant egg that was under great pressure and would collapse and explode at any time. Swoosh! At this moment, an incomparably rapid wind-breaking momentum flew over from the horizon. A dazzling silver light traversed the horizon, like a glimpse of a graceful swan, the trajectory of a meteor, and a monstrous force that was comparable to a mountain pressed down. Bang! Chapter 723. Boom! Just as Shanzhen's pavilion was about to be crushed by the multicolored python, an extremely majestic and monstrous force suddenly pressed down like a divine radiance, firmly hitting the huge body of the multicolored python. Endless bright silver light soared into the sky, and the raging and mighty shock wave was like a mountain torrent and a tsunami in an instant. Along with the pavilion that was suddenly destroyed, the multicolored python was directly blasted away by this terrifying force. Everyone's expression changed. Under the shock, the eyes of the people from Mount Kunlia's group suddenly surged with a deep sense of surprise. As the rocks flew and spiritual essence splashed, an extraordinary young figure emitted a powerful aura that suppressed the entire scene. Chu Hen, senior brother Shanzhen, is still inside. Hua Shui hurriedly pointed at the tumbling rocks and shouted at the pavilion that had more than half of it collapsed. The corner of Chu Hen's eyes narrowed. Then, he pointed down with one hand, and a huge suction force erupted from his palm. The invisible traction force was like a giant whale sucking in water, immediately causing the falling rocks to stop in mid-air. Then, Chu Hen retracted his 5 fingers and clenched his palm. Bang! With an explosive sound, the rocks were directly crushed into powder. What a powerful force! The people from Mount Kunlia's group were all dumbfounded. They were astonished. How long had it been since they last met, and Chu Hen's cultivation had actually increased so much again? Buzz buzz. At the same time, the multicolored python that was sent flying shone brilliantly. Along with the restless space, the huge snake body that was more than 500 meters long actually shrank rapidly. In the blink of an eye, a slender and tall figure appeared in front of everyone's eyes. It was an enchanting and charming young woman in a long, colorful dress. She had a fair oval face and a pair of dark green eyes that were very seductive. "It's someone from the Heavenly Serpent clan," Su Lang shouted in a deep voice. The people from Mount Kunlia's group were not particularly surprised about this. Previously at the wind-soaring source, Chu Hen had first killed the man from the Fang clan, and then repelled the expert from the Heavenly Serpent clan, Qi Lianchong. Now that the Heavenly Serpent clan had found their way here, it was not surprising. Boom! Then, an extremely cold and terrifying aura surged over from the other side of the sky. "Hee hee, we meet again." A cold and strange laughter rang out, and a familiar figure flew over. Who else could it be but Qi Lianchong? In the sky behind Qi Lianchong, the shadow of a huge heaven-devouring python appeared. The phantom was 1,000 meters long and stood proudly under the sky like a coiling dragon. Hiss! In the next moment, the sky-devouring giant python leaped out and swooped down, bringing with it a frightening ferocity as it pounced towards Chu Hen below. "You escaped last time, but you won't be so lucky this time." Dai Qi Lianchong's vertical pupils flashed with a cold light. In the face of the menacing and terrifying attack, Chu Hen was a little disdainful. Buzz! A black light rose, and a powerful sword momentum swept out. Countless black cyclones quickly intertwined in front of him, and immediately turned into a huge black sword. The endless murderous aura caused even the heavens and the earth to dim a little. Boom! The collision of the two was like a mountain torrent, shaking the surroundings. Under the shocked gazes of everyone present, the huge black sword rushed straight into the mouth of the sky-devouring giant python and penetrated its entire body. It broke through the layers of obstacles and slashed towards Qi Lianchong like a divine ray. What? Qi Lianchong's expression changed drastically, and his pupils shrank. Since when did Chu Hen's cultivation become so terrifying? Bang! An earth-shattering sound rang out as the black sword light heavily bombarded Qi Lianchong's body. A powerful sword light blossomed in all directions, covering the sky and covering the earth like a misty rain. Almost at the same time, the enchanting woman formed by the colorful giant python instantly arrived beside Qi Lianchong. She grabbed his shoulder and dragged him out. Even so, the peerless sword Qi still sliced off nearly half of Qi Lianchong's shoulder. His entire right arm was instantly turned into a bloody mess and turned into nothingness. Ah! Qi Lianchong let out a scream of shock and anger, causing everyone who heard it to feel a chill down their spines. If the woman hadn't acted in time, Qi Lianchong would have been obliterated in an instant, leaving nothing behind. How could this be? This Chu Hen was about to kill a profound world realm expert with a single move. Looking at Qi Lianchong, who had half of his shoulder chopped off, the enchanting woman did not seem angry at all. Instead, she looked at Chu Hen with a smile and chuckled. "Little brother, you're really capable. If I kill you, even I would feel that it would be a pity." Hua! Immediately after, a strange and enchanting aura was emitted from her dark green eyes. An invisible wave of air rippled between heaven and earth. Her pupils immediately converged and condensed, turning into a pair of vertical and sharp snake eyes. In an instant, everyone present felt an inexplicable palpitation in their hearts. At the same time, the space in front of Chu Hen immediately underwent a huge change. The world was spinning, and everything around him was distorted. It was like a dream or an illusion. It was as if Chu Hen had fallen into an endless and vast star field. It was as if he was the only person left in the entire world. However, in the next second, a layer of ripples appeared in the void under Chu Hen's feet. Then, a colorful python sprang out of the ripples and wrapped around Chu Hen's feet, binding him tightly. Hiss! The python wrapped around Chu Hen's neck like a tree. The snake's head turned into the head of a young woman. She opened her mouth, revealing a pair of sharp, poisonous fangs that flickered with a dazzling light. The danger had already arrived at his side, but Chu Hen had a calm expression as he muttered to himself. An illusion technique? At the moment when the snake woman's poisonous fangs were about to descend onto the back of Chu Hen's neck, the space trembled. Chu Hen's eyelids opened, and a strange purple glow bloomed in his pitch-black pupils. A monstrous aura that was like a tempestuous wave suddenly erupted from his body. The boundless purple glow was like a radiant sun that emitted divine radiance. A myriad of purple shadows were like sharp swords that pierced through the sky, and they directly minced the snake woman that was coiled around him into pieces. Bang! In the sky above the abandoned manor, a majestic force was comparable to a landslide or a tsunami. An extremely powerful and piercingly cold gale covered the heavens and the earth, and it crushed down all the way. The illusory space that enveloped Chu Hen completely collapsed. At the center of the energy that shot into the sky, Chu Hen's body was surrounded by a purple glow, and he emitted an unshakable heroic aura. The surrounding people were all shaken and retreated continuously. The seductive woman in front of him had her long hair dancing and her dress swaying. She looked at Chu Hen with a bit of surprise in her eyes. My brother is really not an ordinary person. Today, I will give you face and won't entangle with you anymore. Senior Sister Lan Nua. Qi Lianchong shouted with extreme unwillingness. Today, his arm was destroyed by Chu Hen. If he just let it go, he really couldn't swallow it. However, the seductive woman just smiled sweetly. She glanced at Chu Hen with her seductive eyes, and then she grabbed Qi Lianchong's shoulder and flew away. Shrouded by a cloud of colorful mist, they immediately disappeared in front of everyone. As soon as the two people of the Heavenly Snake Clan left, the people of the Blood Refining Hall immediately panicked. Liao Rui's eyes were full of fear as he looked at Chu Hen. He almost killed Qi Lianchong with a casual sword strike. His cultivation was too strong. So? Liao Rui's face suddenly changed. He seemed to think of something and subconsciously shouted, "You killed Lu Chuanfeng?" Songhai City, Beiqian Chamber of Commerce, Lu Chuanfeng. That day, the mysterious black-clothed man robbed the Heaven and Earth Xian yellow token, and then someone let the black-clothed man go under Lu Chuanfeng's eyes. A few days later, it was said that Lu Chuanfeng was killed outside Songhai City. And Chu Hen was almost separated from the team of Mount Kunliu at that time. The corners of Chu Hen's mouth rose slightly, and he replied indifferently, "Correct answer, but unfortunately there is no reward." Boom! All of a sudden, people of the Blood Refining Hall seemed to be struck by lightning. Their faces were full of horror, and their eyes were full of fear when they looked at Chu Hen. Swoosh! There was a flash of coldness in Chu Hen's eyes. He moved his mind, and the real vitality in his body rose. A green holy sword swept out from his palm and flew out like an aurora shuttle. Looking at the green sword shadow, Liao Rui's pupils trembled again, and his face was as pale as paper. Chapter 724. Blue Ran Sword, the sword of the head of Mount Kunliu. Looking at the green holy sword flying towards him, Liao Rui's pupils shrank violently, and his face was suddenly filled with deep shock and disbelief. Whoosh! The fierce sword Qi broke the wind and arrived faster and faster, like the divine light from the sky. It rolled up the cold killing intent and slashed towards the masters of the Blood Refining Hall. Hiss! Blood was flying and the light rain was flying. Blue Ran's sword was as fast as lightning, and it pierced the throats of the masters of the Blood Refining Hall one after another unstoppably. The speed of reaping people's lives was frightening. Hurried and short miserable cries rose up one after another. Everyone was pierced through by the Blue Ran sword like wooden stakes. In an instant, except for Liao Rui, all the disciples of the Blood Refining Hall were killed on the spot. Everyone on Mount Kunlu was completely dumbfounded and dumbfounded. It was 2F** King fast. However, in the next instant, the blue sky sword drew out a powerful arc in the air as it assaulted Liao Rui once more. OM! OM! As it moved, the blue sky sword emitted a brilliant light, and countless dazzling green markings formed circle after circle of flowing waves. The flowing shadows outside the blade of the sword swiftly enlarged, and it instantly transformed into an enormous sword pillar that was 300 m wide. The momentum was shocking, and it was powerful enough to cut mountains and rivers. Liao Rui was shocked, and his face was full of panic because of the shock. In his haste, the true origin energy in his body gushed out without holding back in the slightest, and with a push of his palms, the might of his palms that were vast like a torrent shot forward to meet the attack. Bang! The peerlessly powerful sword pillar collided fiercely with the vast gray torrent of the great Tao. The heavy loud sound was deafening, and the thunder was crisscrossing, detonating the sky. Two kinds of power of different colors set off layers of stormy waves, and the blue waves were horrified. A circle of powerful chi wave light patterns swayed in the air, and the surrounding space fell into a state of distortion. The ground below immediately sunk, and the various buildings and walls in the manor were crushed into pieces. Bang! Then, Blue Ran's sword fell down, smashing the thick gray light, and the cold flame hit Liao Rui's body. The latter's body shook, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. The true essence defensive shield around his body was completely shattered. Liao Rui's face turned pale. He covered his chest with one hand, looked fierce, and shouted angrily, "Our blood-refining hall will not let it go." After saying that, he turned around and turned into a stream of light that shot out. Boom! As soon as he spoke, a powerful aura erupted from the central pavilion. Half of the pavilion that had collapsed previously was now completely smashed to pieces. The impact of the raging airwaves directly razed it to the ground. Screech! What followed was a resounding eagle cry that shook the heavens. "Senior Marshal Brother Shan Zhen has woken up!" Hua Shui exclaimed. The eyes of the others on Mount Kunlu also lit up. In the next instant, a sharp figure emitting a bright light shot out like an aurora. The rapid sound of breaking wind was extremely sharp. In the process of tracing, Shan Zhen's body bloomed with thousands of dazzling holy brilliance. The light patterns quickly intertwined and instantly transformed into a majestic golden eagle phantom outside Shan Zhen's body. The eagle had a wingspan of 1,000 meters. It swallowed the mountains and rivers, and moved like the wind and lightning. It chased in the direction where Liao Rui escaped with an earth-shattering momentum. "Since you're here, don't leave." Shan Zhen's voice was like thunder, and his aura was monstrous. His speed was as fast as a meteor catching up with the moon. He rapidly shortened the distance between him and Liao Rui. What? Feeling the overwhelming, terrifying aura behind him, Liao Rui's face changed dramatically, and his eyes were filled with horror. Boom! With a loud sound, the giant golden eagle that shrouded Shan Zhen's body hit Liao Rui's body fiercely with the power to hit the sky. The mountains collapsed, the earth cracked, and the sky shook. A huge mass of air surged into the sky, almost piercing through the sky. Liao Rui let out a miserable howl, and with a muffled bang, his body immediately exploded into a cloud of blood mist. The scarlet rain of blood rained down from the sky, and the vast and mighty aura whistled in all directions. Immediately, the giant golden eagle soared into the sky, and turned into a fierce young figure that appeared in the void. Wow! Everyone from Mount Kunlu revealed an expression of surprise. Even Chu Hen's handsome eyebrows slightly twitched as a faint astonishment appeared in his eyes. Third level of the Earth Profound Realm. When others were cultivating, their realms would increase gradually, level by level. However, the limits of Shan Zhen's bloodline were special. Her power was gathered in her body, and when it reached a certain value, it would increase by a large margin in one go. There were advantages and disadvantages to this. The disadvantage was that her realm would be weaker than others at the same time. However, the advantage was that she would rarely get stuck at a bottleneck. After all, the huge amount of energy gathered in her body had a great effect on breaking through the bottleneck. Buzz, buzz. The people of the blood refining hall were annihilated, and the poisonous insects, snakes, and ants were quickly extinguished by the weasel army. Soon, the battle in this place came to an end. Everyone on Mount Kunliu, who had been tensed up, could finally relax. Hausi then put his finger to his mouth and blew a loud whistle. Immediately, the weasel army retreated like a tide. Squeak, squeak. Before the purple-gold weasel king left, he didn't forget to wave his claws at Hua Shui, as if to thank her for saving the injured weasel beasts with the art of accumulating divine origin. Hua Shui really felt that these rats were becoming more and more adorable, and she also waved goodbye. Goodbye, handsome rat. Oh no, handsome sable. Everyone couldn't help but find it funny when they saw this. She was clearly crying for her parents just a moment ago, yet she actually became familiar with someone else now. Soon after, everyone landed in succession. Chu Hen and Dan Zhen also landed on the ground one after another. After the fierce battle, the entire abandoned manor was in a mess. The corpses of poisonous insects, snakes, ants, and humans were scattered everywhere. "Is everyone okay?" Chu Hen asked. They shook their heads. They were indeed injured before, but with Hua Shui's strong help, everyone recovered very quickly. This time, the people of the Blood Refining Hall were really unlucky. They misjudged the comprehensive strength of the people of Mount Kunliu and directly killed the whole team. "I thought I could surpass you after this breakthrough. It seems that I thought too much." Shan Zhen laughed dryly and looked at Chu Hen helplessly. Chu Hen smiled and said, "You're at the 3rd rank of the Earth Profound Realm, and I'm only at the 2nd rank. You have indeed surpassed me." "Forget it. Don't be modest, we're on the same side." Although Shan Zhen's realm was indeed higher than Chu Hen's, the aura that Chu Hen revealed made Shan Zhen feel that it was difficult to compare with him. Moreover, when Chu Hen was at the 9th rank of the void-piercing realm, he was able to kill Lu Chuanfeng, who was at the 3rd rank of the earth-profound realm. Dan Zhen did not doubt in the slightest that if she were to fight against Chu Hen, she would lose her life in less than 3 moves. After so much, Shan Zhen had no choice but to accept it. "Where have you been these days? You made us wait for a month," Hua Shui said with a little dissatisfaction. Chu Hen smiled and shook his head apologetically. "I encountered something, and it took me some time to break through to the earth-profound realm." Everyone was stunned. In just a month, he jumped 2 ranks, from the 9th rank of the void-piercing realm to the 2nd rank of the earth-profound realm. This speed was really fast. Chu Hen did not intend to tell everyone what happened in the 7 Souls Palace of Kongyu City. It would affect his mood. As for the series of encounters with Tuoba Sha on the way, there was no need to say it. After all, the less people knew about it, the better. "That Xiaoyao, did you send her back to Wuang Valley?" Hausi asked. Chapter 725. "Did you send little Yao back to Wuang Valley?" asked Hausi. The others also looked at him with questioning gazes. Chu Hen nodded slightly in confirmation. "After you left, the people from Wuang Valley came looking for us a few days later. Little Yao and I beat them at their own game and made them think that I kidnapped her." Everyone nodded. This could be considered as an excellent method. As long as Wuang Valley didn't get suspicious, Yi Yao would be relatively safe there. Then, Chu Hen looked at Dan Zhen, Fu Qin, and the others solemnly. "Regarding this, I hope that you won't tell Faxian Palace Lord about it after we return to Mount Kunli." Dan Zhen and Fu Qin looked at each other. Dan Zhen said without hesitation, "Don't worry. We know what to do. We definitely won't leak it to anyone." After all, this was a very important matter. The more people that knew, the more danger Yi Yao would be in. Once this matter was leaked, the consequences would be unimaginably severe. Chu Hen still trusted Dan Zhen quite a bit. However, in order to be sure, he still needed to remind everyone so that they wouldn't accidentally leak it out when the time comes. In fact, Dan Zhen really didn't plan on reporting this matter. After all, this was Chu Hen's personal matter. It had nothing to do with Mount Kunliu. Su Lang and Ling Tao were both trustworthy people. As for the others, there was no need to mention them. In the past few months they had experienced so many life and death situations. It was enough to see a person's heart clearly. Wait, are we going back to Mount Kunlun? Hua Shui seemed to be smart this time. She understood what Chu Hen meant. Almost, answered Chu Hen. There's still 4 months before the ancient desolate heaven region opens. There's not much point in staying here. It's better to go back and prepare. Is it the heaven and earth mystic yellow order? Don't worry. Chu Hen smiled confidently and said with a bit of confidence, I definitely won't fall behind those 2 people. Seeing how confident Chu Hen was, no one had any objections. After running around outside for so long, it was time to go back. Immediately, everyone left the abandoned villa that was in a mess. About half an hour later, on the outskirts of the forest outside of deer-chasing city, screech, along with the loud and joyful cry of an eagle, a scarlet-winged black eagle with a wingspan of over 1,000 feet flew over with a mighty and ferocious aura. This scarlet-winged black hawk was Danjun's mount. Compared to a few months ago, the crimson-winged black hawk's body was obviously much larger, and the aura it exuded was also stronger than before. This was the effect of eating the 10,000 beast fruit. Roar. Immediately after, a deafening roar sounded from another direction. The earth trembled, the mountains swayed, and large areas of vegetation and trees were flattened. Everyone raised their heads and looked over, only to see a huge fellow with a pair of wings on his back swooping down towards them. The aura he emitted directly suppressed the scarlet-winged black eagle. Beast Emperor. Mount Kunlun and the others frowned. Su Lang, Ling Tao, and the others drew their swords. Wait, this guy seems to be Shuriyan's evil dragon beast. Hua Shui reminded with uncertainty. What? Shuriyan's evil dragon beast? As soon as this was said, everyone except Chu Hen was a little startled. Shuriyan's evil dragon beast? How did it become like this? Shuriyan's evil dragon beast was originally covered in a thick rock armor. But now, apart from the rock armor, its skin was also covered with a layer of fine scales. What was different from before was that its limbs had become longer, and its claws were sharper than before. It seemed to have some characteristics of a lizard dragon. Roar. As expected, the other party stopped in front of everyone, lowered its huge head, and stuck it in front of Chu Hen. A low and deep moan came from its throat. Has it transformed into a beast emperor? Chu Hen mumbled to himself and reached out to caress the beast's head a few times. Did this guy become like this because he ate the dark bone lizard dragon? Qi Ting asked subconsciously. As soon as he said that, everyone immediately reacted. When they left Haitian City, their first stop was the poisonous dragon lake. Then, they encountered the first beast emperor, the dark bone lizard dragon, in the poisonous dragon lake. After Chu Hen killed the dark bone lizard dragon, Shuriyan's evil dragon beast devoured more than half of its body. Now that they looked carefully, the beast did have some characteristics of the dark bone lizard dragon. Although everyone sighed in their hearts, they had to admit that Shuriyan's evil dragon beast looked more domineering and powerful now. The aura it emitted was also much stronger than before. There was no doubt that it was a genuine beast emperor. This beast is not bad. It's most likely a mutated species. Shan Zhen nodded and gave her approval. Shuriyan's evil dragon beast roared loudly, as if it understood what she said. Just a few words of praise and you're so arrogant, Hua Shui said playfully. Everyone was speechless and shook their heads with a smile. Let's go. Chu Hen took the lead and jumped onto Shuriyan's evil dragon beast's back. Everyone followed him and climbed onto the back of the 2 giant beasts. Accompanied by the sonorous cry of an eagle and the vigorous roar of a beast, the 2 gigantic beasts spread their wings and rose into the sky. They transformed into a stream of light and leaped into the clouds, sweeping in the direction of Mount Kunlun. By the way, Chu Hen, this is for you. Shan Zhen, who was on the back of the red-winged black eagle, suddenly waved his hand and a light shadow was thrown toward Chu Hen. Ta! Chu Hen casually took it into his palm. Everyone else also cast astonished gazes over, only to see that it was actually a heaven and earth yellow token. Hey? Senior brother Shanjun, where did you get it? Hua Shui asked curiously. Shanjun smiled and said, Where else could I get it? Of course, I picked it up from Liao Rui's place. Everyone was stunned. It turned out that after Dan Zhen killed Liao Rui of the Blood Refining Hall, she also took his storage device into her pocket. When she checked it just now, she accidentally found a heaven and earth yellow token among them, which was a big surprise. Thanks a lot. Chu Hen nodded and said. Shanjun shook his head slightly and a trace of deep meaning appeared in his eyes. From Chu Hen's expression, he actually didn't attach much importance to this heaven and earth yellow token. In other words, for Chu Hen, this heaven and earth yellow token didn't seem to be very important. So it was obvious that he had already collected a complete set of heaven and earth yellow tokens. It was terrifying to think about it. In less than half a month's time, Chu Hen had already completed the entire team's mission by himself. It was very obvious that his individual strength was much stronger than what they had imagined. At this moment, Danjun could not help but look forward to the exciting expressions that the three hall masters were about to display. Chapter 726. In the evening, the sunset dyed more than half of the sky red under the illumination of the dense light patterns. The undulating mountains were dyed a fiery red. At the peak of the mountains, a few towering peaks were surrounded by the misty clouds. This was especially so for the mountain range in the middle. It was like a stone pillar that supported the heavens and the earth. An incomparably huge semicircular light screen covered an area of several hundred miles. From afar, it looked like a huge inverted bowl that isolated the peaks from the outside world. The endless blue mist inside surged wantonly, like the dark tide magic barrier that would not dissipate for 1,000 years. This area was originally one of the sacred places to practice martial arts in this province, but now it had become extremely quiet. Even the steps of the mountain entrance were overgrown with weeds. Rumble, suddenly, the mountains swayed, and the earth faintly trembled. An azure beam of light suddenly shot out from the inside of the light screen, reaching the clouds in the sky. Following that, the huge light screen barrier that spanned several hundred miles slowly split in the middle, split into two, and retreated to the sides. Boom! Boundless, vast, and evil aura surged out like a raging tsunami, blotting out the sky and covering the earth. The beasts in the distance fled, and the birds and beasts scattered. All of them seemed to have smelled an extremely dangerous aura and did not dare to stay nearby. The sky darkened and the nebula changed. It was as if a devil had descended on the vast land. Following that, the dense blue mist dissipated, and figures with fierce auras flew out. Every one of them emitted a cold, murderous aura. A cold figure dressed in black stood proudly at the top of the tallest mountain that was like a pillar that supported the heavens. This was a young man who emitted a fierce aura. His cold eyes seemed to be tainted with hatred, and there was a broadsword on his back. This broadsword was very strange. Its shape was like a pagoda. It was narrow at the front and wide at the back. It was divided into 7 levels, and the levels were clearly defined. It looked like a pagoda. Pavilion Master. The surrounding people rushed to the young man's side and knelt on one knee with a respectful expression. Not so long ago they had addressed him as young lord, but in their hearts they had regarded him as an idiot. Now everyone revealed heartfelt reverence. The young man looked up coldly. The fiery clouds in the sky dyed his face golden red. He held the Buddha demon sword behind his back with one hand and pointed it to the sky. His aura was monstrous, like the return of a fiend god. Shura sect, illusory rain sect, otherworldly spirit sect. It's time for my heavenly sword pavilion to collect their debts. The cold voice was like a clap of thunder that shook everyone's eardrums. When I, the sword demon, return, I will dye the blue sky with your blood. Eastern Victory State. 2 gigantic demonic beasts moved through the clouds, and they steadily flew past the endless beautiful mountains and rivers below. We should be able to return to Mount Kunliu before noon tomorrow, Su Lang said with certainty as he looked at the terrain below. I'm going to sleep for 3 days and 3 nights after I go back. Whoever dares to wake me up, I'll set fire to his house. Hua Xue clenched her fists with an expectant expression. Everyone could not help but laugh, laughing at the other party's lack of ambition. I think it's better if you help us refine a few high-grade pills. They will definitely be useful in the ancient desolate heaven domain, Ji Shu said with a smile. Sure. You can provide the ingredients, and according to the rules of alchemists, you need 3 portions. Hua Xue waved her little hand and made a 3 gesture. That's fine. You can ask Chu Hen for it. That guy has plenty of money now anyway, Haozi said with a smile. Oh right. If you didn't mention it, I would have forgotten. Hua Xue slapped her head and seemed to have thought of something. She then mumbled. That guy said he would give me those medicinal ingredients, but he still hasn't given them to me. Previously, after Hua Xue woke up Yi Yao, Chu Hen had promised to give all the medicinal ingredients he snatched from Lu Chuanfeng to her. She had been so busy that she had forgotten about it. Now that she remembered it, she immediately felt a little displeased. However, at that moment, Chu Hen was already immersed in meditation and cultivation. He did not participate in the idle chatter of the crowd. Strands of yin and yang qi lingered around Chu Hen's body. The black and white cyclones were like 2 swimming fishes chasing each other outside his body. With him as the center, the surrounding tens of meters around him formed a strange aura. He followed Yi Yao's instructions. Every day, when the sun and the moon alternated, it was the time when the yin and yang qi were the most balanced. During this time, it would be half the effort to comprehend and control the yin and yang qi. Especially with the help of the Great Path God Stone's fragment, it would be much easier for Chu Hen to cultivate. Slowly, the sky turned completely dark. At night, the yin qi was dominant, and the yang qi fell to the lowest point. However, Chu Hen still showed no signs of waking up. However, the yin and yang qi outside his body was replaced by the star force. The black and white light patterns also turned into the gentle light of the star force. In the 9 heavens, stars decorated the vast and endless night sky. 4 silver light beams fell from the sky one after another and fell on Chu Hen's body. It was as if he was bathed in the holy light. Only Chu Hen could sense this light beam that originated from the 7 star force. Others could not see it with their naked eyes. Therefore, in everyone's eyes, Chu Hen seemed to have entered a normal meditation state. Not long after, a strand of strange power was transmitted from Chu Hen's body again. The 5th silver light beam fell from the sky and went into Chu Hen's body. The Fecta chapter, the 5th chapter of the Big Dipper Heavenly Star Incantation. Unknowingly, Chu Hen had cultivated from the 1st level to the 5th level. With the 6th and the 7th level of the Merak chapter, he would be able to reach the great completion. The next day, in the morning, the people on the red-winged black eagle and the Shuryen evil dragon all woke up from their rest. Chu Hen also slowly opened his eyes, which shone with a dazzling light. In front of them, the mountain gate of Mount Kunliu was majestic. Among the peaks, the palaces and towers were extraordinary. The Dao platform square was spacious and orderly. Before they reached the mountain gate, the inside of Mount Kunliu was already noisy and loud. It's senior brother Shan Zhen and the others. They're back, they're back. Hurry up and report to the master of the Flying Immortal Temple. The Flying Immortal Temple was noisy and noisy. After the 2 giant beasts stopped at the Flying Immortal Square, the disciples of Mount Kunliu gathered around and waited. Under everyone's expectant gaze, Chu Hen, Shan Zhen, Haozi, and the others jumped down to the ground. This scene was similar to the first day Chu Hen came to Mount Kunliu. Senior brother Shan Zhen, senior sister Hua Xue, you're back. A delicate-looking young man separated the crowd and hurriedly ran over. This person was none other than Xiaomiu, nicknamed Little Wooden Fish. How was it? Little Wooden Fish, did you miss me these days? Hua Shui patted his head as soon as she arrived, pretending to be the boss. Hee hee. Xiao Miu put on a fake smile and immediately looked back at Chu Hen, Shanjun, and the others. Senior brother Shanjun, did you guys complete the mission? This was the question that everyone in the Flying Immortal Temple wanted to know. Shanjun did not answer. He first looked at Chu Hen and then said, Where's Nangong Hao and Ling Lingyan? Are they still outside? No. Senior sister Ling came back yesterday evening, and senior brother Nangong came back this morning. They arrived 2 hours earlier than you guys. Oh! Everyone was slightly surprised when they heard this. It was really a coincidence that they came back almost at the same time. How many heaven and earth black-yellow tokens did the two of them get? Fu Qin asked. It hasn't been announced yet. Xiao Miu answered truthfully. The higher-ups want to announce the results together when you guys return. Announce together? Dan Zhen, Fu Qin, Su Lang, and the others could not help but look at each other. Chapter 727. Flying Immortal Peak. Principal Hall. Accompanied by the sound of a long bell, the upper echelons of Mount Kunliu began to make their way to the principal hall one after another. At this moment, even the entrance of the hall was surrounded by a crowd of Mount Kunliu's disciples. To Mount Kunliu, the mission of the Heaven and Earth Mystic Yellow Order this time was not only related to whether they had the right to enter the ancient desolate heaven domain, but also the selection of the next sect leader. In the spacious hall, Chu Hen, Dan Zhen, Fu Qin, and the rest stood in the middle. Chu Hen's expression was very calm, and there was not much emotion in his eyes. No matter what the result was, he was actually not particularly worried. He had left Mount Kunliu back then, and now that he had returned as promised, it could be considered as giving Qin, Qi, Shu, and Hua an explanation. Even if Chu Hen turned around and left now, the upper echelons of Mount Kunliu could not possibly blame the four of them. Senior Sister Ling is here. At this moment there was a commotion outside the door. The crowd around the entrance made way for a wide path, and the group from the Void Temple walked into the hall. The person walking in front was a beautiful and refined woman who exuded a bit of fairy-like aura, her soft, long hair draped over her shoulders, and her tall figure attracted everyone's attention. Void Temple Lung Lingyan. The moment she appeared, it was like a beautiful scenery, and everyone's eyes lit up. The strangest thing was that there was not a trace of true yuan fluctuation on her body, and she looked like an ordinary person. The group of young men and women behind her also concealed their auras, making it difficult to determine their true cultivation. However, compared to Lung Lingyan's aura, which did not have any true yuan aura, the rest of them were obviously lacking. This was the specialty of the Void Temple. They could conceal their aura under any circumstances, so that it would be difficult for others to determine their true cultivation. This would allow them to achieve unexpected results in battle. Moreover, Lung Lingyan cultivated the strongest cultivation technique of the Void Temple, the Heavenly Void Seal technique. After mastering it, even if the opponent was standing behind them, they would not be able to detect it. Chu Hen subconsciously turned to look at the people from the Void Temple. Coincidentally, Lung Lingyan also looked at them. When their gazes met, Lung Lingyan's eyebrows instantly knitted together. Without saying anything further, she raised her palm and struck towards Chu Hen. So it's you, the guy who stole my stuff. Watch my palm, what was going on? Everyone in and out of the hall was startled by this sudden scene. Chu Hen also cursed inwardly. It really was her, Senior Sister Ling. Wait. Dan Zhen immediately stood between the two. Facing Lung Lingyan's palm that didn't have the slightest fluctuation of strength, Dan Zhen didn't dare to be careless. The true essence within her body surged and quickly gathered in her palm, forming a thick and boiling tide of light. Bang! As the two palms collided, a violent shockwave spread out in the hall. The ground under everyone's feet also shook, and the scattered and vigorous waves of air shook the surrounding people, forcing them to retreat repeatedly. Lung Lingyan's seemingly powerless palm energy erupted with a force comparable to a landslide. Danjun, who was at the third level of the Earth Profound Realm, was actually shaken and forced to retreat more than 10 steps. Danjun, you dare to fight me now? Lung Lingyan's expression was somewhat frosty. Huaxue, Fu Qin, Su Lang and the others hurriedly gathered around and asked about Danjun's situation. The latter shook her head, indicating that she was fine. Senior Sister Lung, may I ask why you are doing this? Ask him what he did. Lung Lingyan pointed at Chu Hen and shouted. Everyone's gaze swept over one after another. Chu Hen secretly felt helpless. There really was no way to escape now, but the matter was not so far away that it couldn't be mediated. Chu Hen stepped forward, cupped his fists and bowed and said, I am Chu Hen, greet Senior Sister Lung. Now you know to lower your head? Weren't you quite proud of yourself before? You even dared to take something that belongs to me, Lung Lingyan. What do you think you should do today? Although Lung Lingyan had the face of a lady, her personality was very strong, and she never liked to be bullied by others. Everyone was even more surprised. Chu Hen took something that belonged to Lung Lingyan? What thing? When did this happen? Hua Shui suddenly recalled that before they set off, Chu Hen seemed to have asked her if anyone could completely conceal their presence in battle. Even if the other party stood behind them, they wouldn't be able to detect the target. At that time, Hua Shui suspected that Chu Hen might have offended someone from the Void Palace, but Chu Hen refused to admit it no matter what. Looking at the situation in front of her now, Hua Shui suddenly felt a headache. Chu Hen, what did you take from Senior Sister Lung? Return it to her. Fu Qin stepped forward and said. She knew that because of the competition for the position of sect master, any matter would have a very great impact on Chu Hen. Therefore, if there was any misunderstanding, she had to clarify it now. Chu Hen spread out his hands and shrugged. He said without panic, Senior Sister Lung, it seems like you didn't give me a chance to explain before. You kept chasing and hitting me, so I could only run. Lung Lingyan smiled coldly. Let me ask you, if I didn't attack a thief, would I be intimate with you? Forget about being intimate. I prefer people who are gentler. Are you saying that I'm barbaric and unreasonable? Hearing this, not only Hua Shui, but everyone else also had a headache. What was Chu Hen saying? This guy deserved to be beaten to death by Lung Lingyan. Chu Hen did not take it seriously and replied, Senior Sister Lung, that day was indeed a misunderstanding. I previously thought that the water soul essence was without an owner. After you came, I wanted to exchange it with you, but you didn't give me this chance. Subsequently, Chu Hen flipped his palm and took out a crimson ball of light. A scorching wave of air spread out. There was a fiery red spiritual liquid flowing inside the ball of light, and an extremely obscure energy wave was transmitted from it. I hope this fire crystal can compensate for your loss, Senior Sister Lung. The fire crystal was one of the many treasures that Lu Chuanfeng had collected. Its value was not inferior to the water soul essence that Lung Lingyan had stored in the lake. Moreover, Chu Hen had only taken half of the water soul essence, but now he was using a whole fire crystal as compensation. It could be seen that his attitude was very sincere. Seeing that the other party had put it this way, the coldness on Lung Lingyan's face eased up a lot. She was not an unreasonable person. It was just that she was a little angry that Chu Hen had slipped away from under her eyes that day. Who cares about your compensation? I'll remember this first, and I'll make you pay for it sooner or later. Lung Lingyan snorted softly, then turned around and ignored him. Dan Zhen, Fu Qin, and the others heaved a sigh of relief. Just now, they were afraid that the two of them would fight because of this. Regardless of whether Chu Hen was in the right or not, the higher-ups of Mount Kunliu would definitely stand on Lung Lingyan's side. At that time, it would cause more trouble. You're all quite early. In the next instant, a thunderous roar reverberated in the hall. Everyone's expression changed. They saw a tall and handsome young man walk into the hall. Compared to Lung Lingyan's lithe and quiet state, this person's state was completely different. His powerful aura directly suppressed everyone in the hall, Nangong Ku. He cultivated the strongest battle technique of the Demon Slayer Hall, the Great Demon Slayer Technique. Seeing the group of people from the Demon Slayer Hall walk over, Chu Hen could clearly feel a powerful aura that was like a mountain pouncing towards him. Under the powerful aura, Nangong Ku's body emitted a murderous aura. This was Chu Hen's first time seeing the two top geniuses of Mount Kunlyu today. He had to admit that the two of them had their own characteristics, and they were both very powerful. In comparison, as an outsider, Chu Hen's aura was obviously lacking. Lung Lingyan glanced at Nangong Ku indifferently, and had no intention of paying him any attention. Nangong Ku's eyes turned cold, and he looked straight at Chu Hen. "You're the one who comprehended the single sword flying immortal technique?" His words carried a hint of provocation. Chu Hen raised his brows slightly, and he replied politely, "I'm Chu Hen, greet senior brother Nangong." Chapter 728. You're not a member of Mount Kunlyu, so how can you call me senior brother? I'll say this first. If you don't collect enough heaven and earth black-yellow tokens today, you'll have to scram. Moreover, you'll have to leave the blue Ran sword behind. Nangong Bai's cold tone was filled with disdain and provocation. Everyone's eyes slightly narrowed as they looked at Chu Hen. Their gazes carried a bit of light and provocative intent. According to the decision made by the higher-ups of Mount Kunlyu, if the number of heaven and earth mystic yellow tokens Chu Hen collected was less than that of Nangong Hao and Lung Lingyan, there was no doubt that the position of Mount Kunlia's sect master would not fall to him. The most important thing was that the blue Ran sword must remain. Moreover, there was a contract between Chu Hen and the blue Ran sword. If the contract was forcefully broken, it would hurt Chu Hen. So, it seemed like Chu Hen could only win and not lose. Chu Hen smiled and met Nangong Bai's burning gaze. "I'm aware of this, so I won't trouble you. From your tone, it seems like you're very confident," Nangong Bai mocked. "Won't you know when the time comes?" Chu Hen retorted. In an instant the entire hall was filled with the faint smell of gunpowder. The disciples of the three halls outside the audience hall also found each other to be an eyesore. They discussed in low voices and accused each other of wrongdoing. "Looks like our flying celestial palace has some hope." "Forget it. It's just a bluff. Even with Danjin's help, he's definitely no match for senior brother Nangong and senior sister Lung. Don't be too sure about everything. Chu Hen is the first person to comprehend the single sword flying celestial art apart from sect leader Gong Yang. He's just lucky. TSK, you're lucky. Try comprehending it if you're capable. I'm afraid you're not even qualified to enter the mysterious flying celestial realm." Silence. Suddenly, a heavy voice resounded through the hall. The speaker was a white-haired elder. "Hall of Masters, don't make a racket." Only then did everyone obediently shut their mouths and began to glare at each other. "The three palace masters have arrived." Along with the loud and clear voice, three figures with extraordinary auras walked out from the inner gate behind the main hall. The three of them were one woman and two men. They were the three hall masters of Mount Kunlyu. "We greet the Flying Immortal Hall Master, Devil Slayer Hall Master, Void Hall Master." In an instant, everyone inside and outside the main hall bowed in greeting. Their faces were filled with deep reverence. In the past 20 years, when Sect Master Gong Yang wasn't around, these three palace masters were definitely the pillars of Mount Kunlyu. Everyone had to be respectful to them. The three hall masters walked up to the throne room one after another and looked down at the crowd in front of them. "Get up." Chi Hanyu, the palace master of the Flying Immortal Palace, who was standing in the middle, said indifferently. "Thank you, Hall Master." The crowd replied in unison. Chu Hen raised his head and looked at the three people in front of him. Previously, he had only seen the Flying Immortal Hall Master. It was his first time seeing the other two Hall Masters. The Devil Slayer Hall Master, Wen Liang, had an imposing appearance. His eyes were like lightning, and he emitted a domineering aura. The Void Hall Master, Xie Wuhe, was the same as Lung Lingyan. No true origin could be sensed from his body. Even so, when the crowd stood in front of him, they still felt like he was an insurmountable mountain. "You're all back." The Void Temple Master's gaze swept across the three teams below, a profound look in his eyes. "Cut the crap," the Devil Slayer Hall Master said in a deep voice as he glared at them coldly, "just report the results." This was what the crowd was thinking as well. Everyone's gazes swept back and forth between Nangong Bai, Lung Lingyan and Chu Hen. After such a long time, it was about time for a victor to be decided. Nangong Hao smiled faintly and took the lead to walk forward. Reporting to the three hall masters, I, Nangong Hao, have collected a complete set of 4 heaven and earth mystic yellow tokens. Wow! As soon as he finished speaking, the crowd exclaimed in surprise. As expected of senior brother Nangong. He's really amazing! It's a complete set of 4 tokens. How amazing! While the crowd was praising him, Nangong Hao flipped his palm and 4 heaven and earth mystic yellow tokens appeared in his hand. The 4 fan-shaped tokens were arranged together, impressively forming a complete token the size of a disc. The words heaven, earth, mystic, and yellow could be clearly seen on it. Good. The Devil Slayer Hall Master nodded in satisfaction. He glanced at Qi Hanyu and Xie Wuhe from the corner of his eyes. Xie Wuhe nodded slightly and said in a low voice. Lung Lingyan raised her head and took a few steps forward. Her red lips parted slightly as she said, reporting to the 3 hall masters, Lingyan's luck is not bad. She also obtained 4 heaven and earth mystic yellow tokens. Praises sounded again. The eyes of the people from the Void Hall lit up. Lung Lingyan flipped her wrist and raised her hand. 4 complete sets of heaven and earth mystic yellow tokens appeared in her hand. Senior Sister Lung is amazing. I knew you could do it. We support you as the sect master. Looking at the 4 heaven and earth mystic yellow tokens in Lung Lingyan's hand, the Void Hall Master Xie Wuhe revealed a satisfied expression. Nangong Hao raised his eyebrows and glanced at Lung Lingyan frivolously. The latter retaliated with an unyielding gaze. The Devil Slayer Hall and the Void Hall are tied for now. Only the Flying Immortal Hall is left, the Devil Slayer Hall Master Wen Liang said in a low voice. Everyone's gaze fell on Chu Hen on the other side. At this moment, Fu Qin, Hua Shui, Su Lang, and the others could not help but mutter in their hearts. It had to be said that Nangong Hao and Lung Lingyan lived up to their reputations. Both of them were extremely powerful. To be able to obtain 4 heaven and earth mystic yellow tokens in the chaotic Eastern Victory State. Previously, Chu Hen did not reveal to the crowd how many heaven and earth mystic yellow tokens he had obtained. This inevitably caused them to be worried. Everyone looked at Chu Hen with deep meaning in their gazes. However, even more of their gazes were filled with doubt. Stop talking. I guess he must not have collected all the heaven and earth mystic yellow tokens. I guess he has at most 2 or 3 tokens. Looks like things are not looking good. Under the questioning gazes of the surrounding people, Chu Hen was neither servile nor overbearing. He calmly walked forward and stood side by side with Nangong Bai and Lung Lingyan. Reporting to the 3 hall masters, I have also obtained 4 heaven and earth mystic yellow tokens. A calm voice came out from Chu Hen's mouth. What? Swoosh. In the next instant the entire place was in an uproar. The Flying Immortal Hall Master Qi Hanyu's slightly knitted brows relaxed, and her gentle and beautiful eyes glowed with a faint light. Fu Qin, Hua Shui, Su Lang, and the others also heaved a sigh of relief. At least they did not fall behind. Under a bright flash of white light, 4 heaven and earth mystic yellow tokens appeared in Chu Hen's hand. Everyone's eyes were focused on the words on the 4 tokens. They were indeed 4 different words. Haha, our Flying Immortal Hall is not weak either. After all, he is someone that sect master Gongyang has chosen. Chu Hen, we support you to be our sect master. I have faith in you. The Flying Immortal Hall's morale also rose. Although most people were not willing to let an outsider like Chu Hen take charge of Mount Kunliu, the Flying Immortal Hall was naturally unwilling to fall behind in front of the other two halls. Now that Chu Hen represented the Flying Immortal Hall, there were naturally people who were willing to team up with him. Chi Hanyu was satisfied, but the other two hall masters could not help but frown. No one expected the three of them to be tied. Then who would take over the position of sect master? The higher-ups of Mount Kunliu could not help but look at each other and communicate with their eyes. Three hall masters. At this moment, Chu Hen suddenly spoke. He said in a clear voice, "Regarding the election of the new sect master, let's talk about it later. I think we are not in a hurry." Chu Hen expressed his attitude. Just like what he said, Chu Hen currently did not have any intention of fighting for the position of Mount Kunliu's sect master, but he also did not want to have a conflict with Mount Kunliu because of the blue Rand sword. But just as he finished speaking, Nangong Ju said with a teasing smile, "My apologies everyone, I forgot just now, I actually did not obtain 4 heaven and earth mystic yellow tokens, but 5. A faint wave of air rippled in the air, and a fan-shaped token immediately appeared in Nangong Bai's other hand. It was decorated with exquisite patterns, and there was a majestic word engraved in the middle of the token, Xian Boom. After a moment of astonishment, what greeted them was the loud cheers of the Demon Slayer Hall. The expressions of the Flying Immortal Hall's people changed, especially Fu Qin, Hua Shui, and Su Lang. All of them felt as if they had fallen into an ice cave. The light that they had seen just now was instantly extinguished. "Humph, you actually dare to play tricks," Lung Lingyan scolded in dissatisfaction. Nangong Ju did not think much of it. Holding the 5 heaven and earth mystic yellow tokens, his eyes were filled with arrogance. He looked at Chu Hen in disdain and said, "I'm really sorry, I'm afraid that our Mount Kunliu cannot accept a Buddha like you. Leave the blue Rand sword, you can leave." Loud noises rose one after another. "Sect Master, Sect Master! Congratulations Senior Brother Nangong for becoming the new Sect Master." The Demon Slayer Hall's people were extremely excited, and Hall Master Wenliang even laughed loudly. Void Hall Master Xie Wuha secretly shook his head and sighed. Only Flying Immortal Hall Master Chi Hanyu stared at Chu Hen's calm face. Her intuition told her that this matter was not over yet. Facing Nangong Ju's complacent smile, Chu Hen also smiled. His smile was somewhat helpless, but it was mostly filled with disdain. "Thanks to Senior Brother Nangong's reminder, I almost forgot. Actually, I did not only obtain 4 heaven and earth mystic yellow tokens, but, immediately after, Chu Hen flipped his left hand, and with a flash of white light, another 3 heaven and earth mystic yellow tokens appeared in his palm. 7. His voice was not loud, but when it reached everyone's ears, it was like a bolt from the blue, shaking everyone's eardrums. Chapter 729. 7. Chu Hen's voice wasn't loud, but when it was transmitted to everyone's ears, it was like a bolt from the blue that caused an abnormal sensation. Looking at the other party taking out another 3 heaven and earth black yellow tokens, the entire hall boiled as well. Everyone couldn't help but inhale a breath of cold air, everyone's eyes were wide open, their faces filled with disbelief. Demon-slaying Palace Master Wenliang's laughter immediately froze on his face. Void Palace Master and Flying Immortal Palace Master were also dumbstruck. 7 heaven and earth black yellow tokens. Just how did this guy get them? At this moment, even Danjin, Fu Qin, Hua Shui, Su Lang and the others who were in the same group as Chu Hen were completely stunned. From seeing the light of dawn falling into an ice cave, and then rising from the ice cave to the peak of the mountain, everyone could not help but feel that if they continued to stay with Chu Hen, their hearts would not be able to take it sooner or later. It was too King scary. 7 heaven and earth black-yellow tokens. 1 was obtained from the ancient pagoda of the soaring wind origin, 1 was obtained from killing the Fong clan expert, 3 were given to him by Yi Yao, 1 was obtained from destroying the 7 Soul Palace in Kongyu City, and finally, 1 was obtained from killing the blood refinement sects Liao Rua. Everyone present was filled with shock and doubt, questioning whether Chu Hen was forging the heaven and earth black-yellow token? But very quickly everyone dispelled this thought. In front of the 3 palace masters, forging the heaven and earth black-yellow token was meaningless. Lung Lingyan frowned slightly, looking at the other party in astonishment. Nangong Fu's entire face was ashen. His actions just now fully illustrated what it meant to overreach oneself, lifting a rock to smash one's own foot. In reality, Chu Hen indeed did not plan to take out the remaining 3 heaven and earth black-yellow tokens. A draw was enough, but the other party's aggressiveness finally caused Chu Hen to counterattack. 7 heaven and earth black-yellow tokens suppressed the entire place, and the demon-slaying palace and void palace's side were already silent. Great! Chu Hen is the leader. Hua Shui clapped her hands and cheered. However, at this moment, Chu Hen spoke to the 3 hall masters in a manner that was neither servile nor overbearing. In terms of experience and ability, this junior is ashamed to be inferior to senior brother Nangong and senior sister Lung. It is difficult for me to take on the great responsibility of Mount Kunlu. Therefore, I hope that the hall masters can retract their previous orders. What? Chu Hen actually refused to be the sect master of Mount Kunliu? What was going on? The flying immortal hall master, Chi Hanyu, looked up coldly and said indifferently, "How can the Mount Kunliu's higher-ups treat the order as a joke? However, it's true that you don't have enough experience. In this palace master's opinion, why don't the 3 of you become the candidates for the new sect leader? As for who will be the sect leader, we'll discuss it after we return from the ancient desolate heaven domain." Hua! The hall once again burst into an uproar of discussion. Some felt that it was reasonable, while some felt that Chu Hen was at a disadvantage. But then again, although Chu Hen had brought back 7 heaven and earth yellow tokens, from a certain perspective, it had the same effect as Lung Lingyan's 4 tokens and Nangong Hao's 5 tokens. Everyone in Mount Kunlu had the qualifications to enter the ancient desolate heaven domain. What was undeniable was that Nangong Hao and Lung Lingyan's strength was right there. I wonder if the Devil Slayer Hall Master and Void Hall Master think that my suggestion is feasible. Chi Hanyu turned to look at Wen Liang and Xia Wuhe beside her. The 2 of them looked at each other before Wen Liang replied coldly with lingering anger, "Humph, whatever you say, Flying Immortal Hall Master." Wen Liang immediately flicked his sleeve and swaggered off. The eyes of the Void Temple Lord Xia Wuhe turned slightly cold. He gave Chu Hen a profound look, then turned around and left. Since the 2 hall masters had left, there was no need for the others to stay any longer. Amidst the noisy discussion, they left the main hall one after another. "Humph! Don't think that you don't have to return the water soul essence you owe me just because you said that," Lung Lingyan said coldly as she turned around and rolled her eyes at Chu Hen. Nangong Hao snorted coldly, then left with his team. In the blink of an eye, the spacious hall became empty. Only the flying immortal hall master, Chi Hanyu, and Chu Hen, Shan Zhen, Fu Qin, and a few others were left. "Are you stupid? Why don't you become the sect master after spending so much effort?" Hua Shui tugged on Chu Hen's sleeve lightly and scolded softly. However, Chi Hanyu said in a deep voice, "You're very smart." The people behind Chu Hen were slightly startled. Chu Hen faintly smiled, shook his head, and said, "I won't hide it from Hall Master. Actually, I quite want to be the headmaster in my heart. After all, being a headmaster is much more impressive than being an ordinary disciple. I will also have face when I walk out, but you didn't do that." Chi Hanyu was a little surprised by his answer. "The situation forced me to do so. No matter what it is, the most important thing is to stay alive." Looks like I shouldn't have doubted Gong Yangyu's foresight. Chi Hanyu's words were undoubtedly the greatest affirmation towards Chu Hen. Furthermore, from the simple conversation between the two of them, the others were able to read another layer of meaning contained within. The reason why Chu Hen didn't fight for the sect master's position, or rather, he temporarily didn't fight for the sect master's position, was a very correct choice. Because the biggest obstacles in front of him were the Demon Slayer Hall Master and the Void Hall Master with their characters. Even if Chu Hen brought back 17 Heaven and Earth Mystic Yellow tokens, he wouldn't be able to convince them, let alone the fact that he brought back 7 Heaven and Earth Mystic Yellow tokens. It wasn't easy to change their minds. The reason why when Liang and Xie Wuhe agreed to let Chu Hen compete with Nangong Hao and Lung Lingyan for the Heaven and Earth Mystic Yellow tokens was mainly because they felt that it was impossible for Chu Hen to win for both official and personal reasons. The two Hall Masters would stop this from happening. Once Chu Hen made it clear that he had to be the sect master, he would be pushing himself into the limelight. At that time, Mount Kunlun would really be in chaos. It was because Chu Hen had already seen through the whole situation that he retreated in order to advance. He didn't care about anything else. He needed to stabilize the two Hall Masters and protect the Bai Ran sword, which was linked to his safety. When he went to the ancient desolate heaven realm, he would think of a way to gradually replace Nangong Hao and Lung Lingyan's position in the hearts of the people of Mount Kunlun. Therefore, in Chi Hanyu's opinion, Chu Hen was indeed very smart. She no longer doubted Gong Yangyu's foresight and did not hold back on her praise for Chu Hen. You have all done well. I am very satisfied. Chi Hanyu's gaze swept across the crowd below. She was a little relieved. Later, I will send someone to deliver your rewards. Rewards? Everyone's eyes lit up and they were filled with a faint sense of anticipation. Thank you, Hall Master. Chu Hen and the others replied. All right. You must be tired from the journey. Go and rest. The ancient desolate heaven realm is about to open. In the next few months, make some preparations. If you need any cultivation resources, you can directly go to the 100 Treasure Tower to get them. Chapter 730. Haha, it's so satisfying. You guys didn't see it. When Chu Hen took out the 7 Heaven and Earth Yellow tokens, Nangong Bai's face turned green. And the demon-slaying hall leader too. I've been in Mount Kunlun for so many years, but this is the first time I've seen him so sullen. He wanted to explode but couldn't. That's right. Haha, Chu Hen, from today onwards, many people will definitely acknowledge you. After leaving the main hall, Chu Hen, Dan Zhen and the rest chatted as they walked. Soon after, they arrived at the west side of the guest house. Just as they stepped into the guest house, Haozi walked out from the hall. I heard your laughter from inside. Looks like there's good news. Haozi smiled. Because Haozi's situation was special, he joined the group halfway and was considered a guest of Mount Kunlun. Therefore, he did not follow the group to the conference hall, but waited here to rest. Let me speak, before anyone could speak, Hua Shui spoke first. What about us? We've already gotten rid of the demon-slaying hall and void halls group, but Chu Hen has yet to become the sect leader. Soon after, Hua Shui began to narrate everything that had happened in the Hall of Principle in full detail. After listening, Haozi agreed with Chu Hen's actions. That's how it should be. The ancient desolate heaven domain is about to open. The first thing we should do is focus on this. Even if you become the sect leader of Mount Kunlun, you won't be able to obtain too much power. This way there won't be too many restrictions. Chu Hen nodded. I think so too. Without a doubt, Haozi understood Chu Hen better. Currently, Chu Hen was probably only thinking about the ancient desolate heaven domain and Yi Yao. However, once he became the new sect leader of Mount Kunlun, he would definitely have to deal with all sorts of big and small matters in the next few months. In comparison, his freedom would also be greatly restricted. Not to mention the unforeseeable consequences of the pressure from the other two hall leaders. Let's go in and chat. Danjun raised her hand and followed the others into the hall. After running around outside for more than 8 months, everyone felt a sense of carefree and relaxed. I have something to ask you, Chu Hen suddenly said. Speak, Shan Jun replied. Where in the victorious East State is there a large-scale teleportation formation leading to the 100-nation state? You're going back. Everyone was startled and looked at each other with slight surprise. Chu Hen nodded. Yes, I want to go back and see how the General League is doing. In the blink of an eye, it had already been more than a year since he left the 100 Kingdoms province. How could he not know the current situation of the General Union? 4 months wasn't a long time, but it wasn't a short time either. If there was a large-scale teleportation array, he could consider going back. Yes. Danjun nodded affirmatively. Our Mount Kunliu has set up a teleportation receiving point in Ink City of the 100 Nations state. You can go there directly from our sect's teleportation platform. Oh? Chu Hen's eyes lit up. Mount Kunliu is connected to the 100 Kingdoms province's teleportation array? Yes. Not only in the 100 Kingdoms province, but also in the surrounding provinces. There are also teleportation receiving points. Firstly, it's convenient for missions. Secondly, it's a backup plan. After all, no one can guarantee that the sect won't encounter any unexpected situations in the future. I see. I haven't returned to the Sacred Star Dynasty for a long time. I really miss it. Hauzi murmured. Chu Hen smiled. He was afraid that once Hauzi returned, those instructors and acquaintances who had seen him before would be so scared that they wouldn't dare to recognize him. Who would have thought that the Hauzi from before would transform into a heavenly mouse? While they were chatting, the sound of light footsteps came from outside the door. He saw a white-haired old man leading a few young disciples over. Eighth Elder, why are you here? Danjun hurriedly stood up to welcome him. Chu Hen, Fu Qin, Su Lang, and the others also stood up one after another. This 8th Elder was definitely one of the higher-ups of Mount Kunliu. He had a lot of power and was also the manager of the sect's elixirs, herbs, and treasures. I'm naturally here on the orders of the Flying Immortal Temple Master to give you little brats some rewards, the 8th Elder said with a bright smile. His smiling eyes gave off a kind and generous feeling. Rewards? Everyone looked over and saw a few young disciples holding trays in their hands. There were a few wooden boxes on the trays. Through the boxes, they could vaguely feel the restless energy waves coming from them. 8th Elder personally gave it to us? We can't afford it, Danjun said with a smile. What do you mean we can't afford it? I'm here today to see what kind of young talent sect leader Gong Yang has chosen as his successor. Junior Chu Hen, I've embarrassed myself in front of 8th Elder, Chu Hen said as he cupped his fists. Not bad, not bad. You indeed have the demeanor of sect leader Gong Yang back then. But if you become our sect leader, don't learn from him. Chu Hen smiled embarrassedly and shook his head. It could be seen that this 8th Elder's seniority was not low. There were not many people in Mount Kunliu who dared to criticize Gong Yang so bluntly. 8th Elder, what reward did you bring for us? Don't tell me you're going to steal the sky and replace the sun. Su Lang teased. Go, little Su Lang, you're probably asking for a beating. 8th Elder waved his hand and said to a young disciple behind him, Open the box. Yes. The young disciple's eyes were filled with envy as he opened one of the boxes. Buzz, immediately after, a bright golden light shot out. Everyone's eyelids twitched and saw a pill the size of a longan lying quietly in the box. The pill was copper in color and looked like a golden pearl. There was an extremely strong energy wave inside it. Wow, the pill of broken cauldron! Hua Shui could not help but exclaim in surprise. Her eyes were shining. Haha, little Hua Shui, you know what's good. No wonder every medical elder in our sect praised you so much. When the others heard the words pill of broken cauldron, they were pleasantly surprised. 8th Elder, are you sure these are for us? Danjun seemed to be in slight disbelief. Humph, don't tell me I'm here to play with you. This old man doesn't have that much free time. Eighth Elder replied. However, when he saw that Chu Hen's face seemed to be a little confused, Eighth Elder explained, the price to refine this pill of broken cauldron is extremely high. There are only 100 of them in our sect. There's no doubt that you'll have a breakthrough in your cultivation after consuming this pill of broken cauldron. However, in a short period of time after consuming it, the power that you'll erupt with will instantly increase by 10 times. Furthermore, there won't be any side effects afterwards. What? Instantly increase by 10 times? Chapter 731. The Broken Cauldron Rebirth Pill was extremely expensive. Once consumed, not only would it increase one's cultivation, but the power released would also increase tenfold within a short period of time. After listening to Eighth Elder's description, Chu Hen was amazed. Wouldn't he be able to easily kill an opponent with a higher cultivation if he exploded with 10 times his own power? This was equivalent to having an extra life-saving item. Little Chu Hen, I wonder if you are satisfied with this reward? Eighth Elder squinted his eyes. Looking at the surprised expressions of these juniors, he was secretly pleased. Chu Hen laughed involuntarily. He cupped his fists and said, Thank you, Eighth Elder, for your reward. I am very grateful. It's nothing. This is what you deserve. Eighth Elder raised his hand and gestured to the crowd. Take it all. Hee, we won't stand on ceremony. Danjun, who had always been serious, also revealed a proud smile. Hua Shui could not wait any longer. She stepped forward and snatched the Broken Cauldron Rebirth pill that belonged to her. Let me study how to refine it. When the time comes, I will refine it myself and sell it. The corners of everyone's eyes twitched. This girl was indeed naive. If the Broken Cauldron Rebirth pill was so easy to refine, there would be more than 100 of them in the huge Mount Kunlun. The materials needed to refine this pill were probably extremely expensive. Soon, everyone got their hands on an elixir. What was surprising was that there was still a box behind Eighth Elder. There was one more? Just as everyone was confused, Eighth Elder looked at Hausi behind them and said, Come, young man. You have a share too. I have one too? Hausi was stunned. Even Chu Hen and the rest were pleasantly surprised. Of course, the Flying Immortal Temple Master specially told me, our Mount Kunlun has never treated meritorious people unfairly. Just accept it. Eighth Elder personally picked up the small box behind him and handed it to Hausi. Hausi was moved as he accepted it and said with a grateful smile, Many thanks. Seeing this, Chu Hen's overall impression of Chi Hanyu, the master of the Flying Fairy Temple, rose rapidly. But then again, everyone had seen Hausi's efforts along the way, especially in the battle with Liao Rui of the Blood Refining Hall. If Hausi hadn't tried his best to delay Chu Hen's arrival, the whole team would have been destroyed. If Koan Lu Shan were to turn a blind eye to this, it would truly be disappointing. The rewards have already been delivered. The Master of the Flying Celestial Palace has also told me that if you need any cultivation resources, you can go to the Medicinal Pill Warehouse at the 100 Treasure Pavilion to find me. Of course, if the things you want are more expensive, I will charge a certain amount of money. Tisk! As soon as Patriarch 8 finished his words, he was immediately shushed by Hua Shui with disdain. You still need money? Eighth Elder, don't be so greedy. As the saying goes, money is just a worldly possession. You can't bring it with you when you're born and you can't bring it with you when you're dead. Eighth Elder, don't value money too much. Hearing this, Patriarch 8 immediately blew his beard and glared at her. You're a smart one. You actually dare to lecture me. You're also an alchemist. Don't you know how big the cost is? You know how much money refining medicinal pills cost. Hua Shui hurriedly hid behind Chu Hen. She was so scared that she didn't dare to speak. However, she was still muttering in her heart, You also know that I'm an alchemist. Instead of looking for you to buy it, I might as well refine it myself. Everyone burst into laughter. It was really interesting when the old and the young quarreled. Chu Hen also had a good impression of Patriarch 8. Even though he had a high position and power, he didn't put on any airs. It was easy for people to feel close to him. All right, that's all. I'll take my leave first. Farewell, Patriarch 8. After sending off Patriarch 8, everyone looked at each other. Their faces were brimming with joy. When do you plan to return to the 100 Kingdoms state? Dan Zhen asked Chu Hen. In a few days. When I've decided, I'll go and find you. All right. If there's nothing else, let's call it a day. All right. After that, the crowd dispersed as well. After a while, Chu Hen returned to the room he stayed in previously. Looking at the broken cauldron rebirth pill in his hand, his eyes sparkled. This broken cauldron rebirth pill was the best to take when his cultivation level was higher than his. If he swallowed it now, its effects would be wasted. Immediately, Chu Hen put it into his pocket. Then, he took out all the things he had obtained along the way. All kinds of martial arts techniques, treasures of heaven and earth, holy artifacts, spiritual weapons. They filled the entire table. These were all things he had obtained after killing his enemies. Among them, Lu Chuanfeng of the Northern Qian Chamber of Commerce, the experts of the Liao clan, and the third prince of the Seven Souls Palace, Yan Yunan, had collected the most things. Looking at the dazzling array of rare treasures in front of him, Chu Hen rubbed his chin and muttered to himself, "If I sell all these things, I should be able to get 20 to 30 billion high-grade primordial crystals." Then, Chu Hen shook his head. "It doesn't seem worth it to exchange them for primordial crystals. I might as well bring them to the people of the General Alliance." After this trip to the victorious East State, Chu Hen's horizons had been continuously broadened. Even though the General Alliance was growing stronger day by day in the 100 Kingdoms state, it was insignificant compared to the many forces in the victorious East State. Therefore, Chu Hen thought that after returning, he should do his best to increase the overall strength of the General Alliance. Even though he had obtained many treasures from Lu Chuanfeng and Yan Yunan, it was clearly not enough to satisfy the needs of the entire General Alliance. If he exchanged all of them for 20 to 30 billion high-grade primordial crystals, he could do a lot of things. But if that was the case, it would be rather monotonous. Chu Hen fell into deep thought. After a while, he seemed to have thought of something, and a faint light appeared in front of him. The next day, the sky had just brightened when Chu Hen found Dan Zhen. "What? You want to auction the heaven and earth black-yellow token?" Dan Zhen was endlessly stunned by Chu Hen's purpose in coming. "Yes." Chu Hen nodded to express his affirmation. He had collected a total of 7 heaven and earth black-yellow tokens, and he had already given 4 complete sets to the soaring Immortal Palace Master. The remaining 3 were still in Chu Hen's hands, and the soaring Immortal Palace Master had already said that he had the right to use these 3 heaven and earth black-yellow tokens. Dan Zhen already had a rough idea of Chu Hen's situation in the 100 Kingdoms state. She could more or less guess that he was here for the Han Alliance. A complete set of 4 heaven and earth black-yellow tokens was enough. As for the remaining ones, they were of little use and would be even more useless after he went to the ancient desolate heaven domain. It was better to take advantage of the fact that everyone was treating it as a treasure to exchange for the resources he needed. This could be considered a reasonable use. After a brief moment of surprise, Dan Zhen calmed down. "I understand. Tell me what you want, I'll go alone." Chu Hen nodded, and did not refuse the other party's good intentions. The high-grade primordial crystals obtained from the auction must all be ready-made. Try to exchange for some medicinal pills, offensive and defensive equipment, martial skills and secret techniques, and other cultivation resources. Since he wanted to improve the General Alliance's overall strength, he had to improve their system from the root. Medicinal pills could strengthen one's physique and meridians, offensive and defensive equipment could increase one's combat strength, and all kinds of martial skills and secret techniques gathered the strengths of hundreds of schools, broadening their horizons. This was what Chu Hen could think of at the moment. Don't worry, leave it to me. From Danjun's point of view, this was not a problem at all. Even Su Lang and Ling Tao would be able to complete this task. However, in order to be sure, he still planned to personally make a trip for Chu Hen. I'll leave in a bit, and will return in 10 days at most. All right, I'll be troubling you. There's no need to be polite, wait for my news. Chapter 732. In the blink of an eye, Mount Kunliu was safe and sound. The ancient desolation heaven territory was about to open. All the disciples of the halls were in a state of intense training. After about 6 or 7 days, Danjun returned to Mount Kunliu and found Chu Hen, who was cultivating Reiki energy under the Millennium Heaven Talisman tree with Hua Shui and Jishu. You're back so soon? Chu Hen was slightly astonished, and a questioning look appeared in his eyes. Danjun raised her eyebrows slightly, and there was a faint excitement on her face. Come with me. The result this time will definitely surprise you. Oh? Chu Hen was instantly filled with anticipation. Then, the few of them came to a quiet area on the Dao platform square. Senior brother Danjun, did you pick up a treasure? Why are you so happy? Hua Shui blinked and asked. Danjun shook his head with a smile and said excitedly, Guess how much the 3 heaven and earth yellow tokens were sold for? 30 billion upper-grade primordial crystal stones? Hua Shui said. Keep guessing. 350. No. 50 billion. Ji Shu uttered a number in disbelief. Haha, none of them. Danjun smiled mysteriously. Then, under the confused gazes of the 3 of them, he clearly said a number, not more, not less, a total of 80 billion upper-grade primordial crystal stones. What? 80 billion? Ji Shu and Hua Shui were dumbstruck from fright. Even Chu Hen could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. His face was full of disbelief. If they did not know that Danjun was not a liar, they would definitely not believe this was true. One had to know that an Earth token was sold for 8 billion upper-grade primordial crystal stones at the Northern Heaven Chamber of Commerce's Northern Song Tower auction. This was already a sky-high price, and now, 3 of them were sold for 80 billion. What kind of concept was this? In just a short span of 2 months, it had multiplied so many times? Shocked, right? Even I was shocked. Danjun's emotions were also very high as she spoke. How could it be so ridiculous? Hua Shui asked. The people of the victorious Eastern State are going crazy because the opening of the ancient desolate heaven domain is getting closer and closer. Those powers that haven't collected the heaven and earth mystic yellow medallion are getting anxious. The competition is getting more and more intense, and the value of the heaven and earth mystic yellow medallion is also rising. You guys didn't see the bidding, they are all like madmen. Even the usually calm Danjun cursed, which was enough to show how chaotic the scene was at that time. Chu Hen couldn't help but burst into laughter. He was suddenly enlightened. Indeed, the opening of the ancient desolate heaven domain was getting closer and closer. Everyone wanted to enter the land of gods that opened once every 1,000 years. Those who did not obtain the heaven and earth mystic yellow token were definitely extremely anxious. At this time, under the situation where the supply could not meet the demand, it was normal for its value to double. If it wasn't for the fact that you had to return to the 100-nation state as soon as possible and drag it out for another 10 days or half a month, it wouldn't be difficult to sell it for 10 million. Danjun said. Chu Hen smiled. 80 billion is enough. Okay. Danjun's palm moved, and he took out dozens of exquisite storage rings and handed them to Chu Hen. These are 40 storage rings, and each ring contains 2 billion high-grade primordial crystal stones. According to what you said, they were all exchanged for ready-made primordial crystal stones. Danjun paused, then continued, actually, the total price was 81 billion, but because I asked the Chiyun Trade Union to auction it, they deducted 1 billion as commission after the transaction. The Qian Trade Union was a very famous financial group in the Eastern Victory State. Its strength was not inferior to the Northern Qian Trade Union. In the past, when Dan Zhen went out on missions, he would often interact with the people from the Qian Trade Union. This time, with him personally going out, the matter was especially smooth. With 80 billion in his hands, why would Chu Hen care about a mere 1 billion? However, he had previously asked Dan Zhen to help him buy a batch of cultivation resources after selling the 3 heaven and earth mystic yellow tokens. Could it be that she had forgotten about this matter? As if seeing through Chu Hen's confusion, Dan Zhen smiled and said, "I haven't forgotten about what you asked me to do. We have a better choice." A better choice? Chu Hen was slightly stunned. That's right. You need elixirs, offensive and defensive weapons, martial arts skills. You don't need to buy them from other trade unions. Our Mount Kunlia can provide you with the best. Hearing this, Chu Hen was even more surprised. Mount Kunlia also does these things? Of course. Hua Shui patted Chu Hen's arm and said with slight disdain, "You've been in our Mount Kunliu for so long and you don't even know this? You didn't tell me either." Chu Hen was speechless. Ji Shu pursed her lips and smiled. Her red lips parted slightly as she explained softly, "It's not just Mount Kunliu. Any sect or force needs a huge amount of resources and wealth to operate. Apart from the disciples going out on missions, the biggest source of resources is elixirs and refining weapons. Of course, the elixirs and weapons refined by our Mount Kunliu are not directly supplied to ordinary people. They are handed over to various trade unions for sale and auction. This means that if you buy those resources from outside, it's very likely that you'll be buying our own things." Ji Shu explained very clearly. Dan Zhen continued, "The main point is that the random price increases by the trade unions in the middle will cause us to lose a lot." "I see." Chu Hen was both surprised and curious. He now had a comprehensive understanding of Mount Kunliu. For a sect to be able to stand tall in Victory East State for 1,000 years, they naturally had their own unique way of operating. Most of the time, it was not as simple as it seemed on the surface. Hua Shui curled her lips and said, "Luckily you're not the sect master. If others knew that you don't even know this, they would definitely laugh their heads off." "Yes. If I were to become the sect master, the first thing I'd do would be to expel you from Mount Kunliu." "I was just joking." Hua Shui immediately put on a smiling face. She held on to Chu Hen's arm with one hand and Dan Zhen's wrist with the other. Let's go. Let's first find 8th Elder to buy elixirs. I'll help you negotiate the price." 100 Treasures Tower. It was built on a huge peak that was relatively low above sea level. The terrain was relatively flat, but it was very wide. Although 100 Treasures Tower's name was Tower, in reality, it was a majestic palace city. The south side was the door, and the interior was divided into 3 regions: east, west, and north. The east region was the elixir storehouse, the west region was the weapon pavilion, and the north region was the martial arts tower. These 3 places were definitely important places in Mount Kunliu. Every day there were disciples guarding these places. Apart from this, Mount Kunliu had also sent 3 high-level elders to take care of this place. East Region Elixir Storehouse. Under Dan Zhen's guidance, Chu Hen, Hua Shui, and Ji Shu arrived at a simple and ancient courtyard. The air was filled with the rich fragrance of elixirs. Just smelling it would make one feel refreshed. "Senior brothers and sisters, may I ask why you're here?" A boy of about 8 or 9 years old walked out from the courtyard. This little boy was the assistant of the alchemists here. They were generally children of poor families. Coupled with their limited talent, there was no way for them to have too much success on the path of the martial Tao. They could only earn some money here to maintain the food and clothing of their families. "Is 8th Elder here?" Hua Shui asked as she handed over a few pieces of high-grade elemental crystals to him. "This is for you to buy some sweets." "Thank you, big sister. Thank you, big sister." The boy's eyes were shining. He quickly nodded and thanked her. He pointed to the backyard and said, "Eighth Elder is inside. I'll lead you to him." "There's no need. Go and do your work. We can go there ourselves," Danjun said. "Yes," the boy replied respectfully. From his eyes, one could see the envy he had for the few of them. Chu Hen's heart was slightly touched. There were too many injustices in this world. The gap between people would always exist, however. This did not bring much change to Chu Hen's mood. He followed them into the backyard. The fragrance of elixirs grew stronger. In the main hall of the backyard, a white-haired elder was holding an account book and flipping through it. Hearing the footsteps outside, the elder said, "Little Chu Hen, little Danjun, little Hua Shui, little Ji Shu. The four of you are here to snatch elixirs again? Let me tell you, it's not good to eat too many elixirs." If Chu Hen and his group needed resources for cultivation, they could come here directly to get them. In the past few days, Hua Shui often came here with a few people, which annoyed the 8th Patriarch. Now, he didn't even want to see Hua Shui, this sly girl. It was Chu Hen's first time here. He saw 8th Elder sitting on the inside of the long table near the door like a shopkeeper of a restaurant. The main hall was filled with layers of drawers. The name of the elixir was written on the side of each drawer. "We are not here to snatch elixirs. Today we are here to buy elixirs." As soon as Hua Shui entered the room, she swaggered and sat down on a chair. Chu Hen cupped his fists politely. "8th Elder. Buy elixirs." 8th Elder lifted his eyelids slightly and said with slight disdain, "I have many elixirs here. Generally speaking, there are two types. One is for wuxiu and the other is for pattern masters. Which level do you want?" "Elixirs below the Earth Profound Realm and Earth Pattern Master." "Oh?" 8th Elder was a little surprised. Chu Hen's cultivation had reached the second level of the Earth Profound Realm. Why would he need elixirs of the Void-Piercing Realm? "I have 3 types of medicinal pellets below the Earth Profound Realm. The Heavenly Vitality Blood Burst Pill, 5 million high-grade Origin Crystal Stones. The Earth Dipper Tiger Soul Pill, 8 million, and the Heavenly Dipper Shaman Power Pill, 10 million high-grade Origin Crystal Stones. Which one do you want?" "No way. Old man, you're so unscrupulous." Hua Shui jumped up in anger. She opened her eyes wide and scolded, "You're such a bully. I'm an alchemist." "What's the hurry? I haven't finished my sentence yet, have I? If you buy more than 100, I can give you a 10% discount." Chapter 733. Heaven Vitality Blood Explosion Pill, 5 million upper-grade Primordial Crystal Stones, 8 million Earth Gang Tiger Soul Pill, 10 million upper-grade Primordial Crystal Stones. If you buy more than 100 of them, I can give you a 10% discount. After knowing the purpose of Chu Hen's visit, the 8th Elder took the initiative to recommend the 3 main medicinal pills. "How much for the medicinal pills used by spiritual tattooists?" Chu Hen asked. "Generally speaking, a spiritual tattooist strengthens the growth ability of a street tree and strengthens the Reiki energy. I recommend the True Soul Energy Pill. It's slightly more expensive than the medicinal pill used by wuxiu. 12 million upper-grade Primordial Crystal Stones. If you want it, I'll give you 11 million." Since Hua Shui, the insider, was by his side, the 8th Elder also knew that it was meaningless to raise the price. He might as well be straightforward and directly quoted a price that was close to the lowest line. Moreover, Chu Hen might be the leader of Mount Kunliu in the future. He still had to give him face. "Give me the Heaven Gang Witch Power Pill and the True Soul Energy Pill." Chu Hen didn't even think about it and directly chose the best one. "How many do you want?" the 8th Elder asked. 500 of each." "What?" Chu Hen's answer directly shocked the 8th Elder. He looked at Chu Hen in astonishment. However, Chu Hen's eyes were calm and did not seem to be joking at all. "Are you sure?" "Yes. 10 million Heaven Gang Witch Power Pill. I'll give you 9 million, so 500 of them will be for 5 billion. 12 million true soul energy pill. I'll give you 11 million, so 500 of them will be 5 billion, so that's 10 billion. The eighth elder calculated for him in detail. 10 billion upper-grade primordial crystal stones. To the previous Chu-Hen, it was definitely an astronomical figure that he did not even dare to think about. Now that he had 80 billion assets in his hands, he could totally satisfy the craving of being rich. Another 500 Earthgang Tiger Soul Pills and 1,200 Heavenly Vitality Blood Pills. After a short hesitation, Chu-Hen spoke again. The eighth elder was shocked once again. This guy had so much money on him. Ahem, the Earthgang Tiger Soul Pill costs 8 million high-grade origin crystal stones each, so 500 of them would be 4 billion. The Heavenly Explosive Blood Pill costs 5 million each, so 100 and 200 of them would be 6 billion, for a total of 10 billion. I'll give you a 10% discount. So, what 10% discount? Before the eighth elder could finish, Hua Shui slapped the table and said, I don't want you to give me a discount. Just give a gift to Chu-Hen. Bring me a bottle of Tree Soul Heaven Nurturing Liquid. Holy *T, no way. You want my Tree Soul Heaven Nourishing Elixir? Don't even think about it. The eighth elder was so angry that he jumped up and glared at the other party. You don't want to give it to me? Hua Shui asked. No. All right. Let's go, Chu-Hen. We won't buy his medicinal pills anymore. Humph, little Hua Shui, do you think you can scare me? Apart from me, who else in this Mount Kunliu can provide you with so many pills at once? The eighth elder was not frightened by the other party. Hua Shui glanced at him disdainfully. That's not necessarily true. Don't forget, I know all the medical elders in the entire Mount Kunliu. If I ask each of them for a few dozen pills, I should be able to gather that amount, right? The eighth elder was so angry that he almost rolled his eyes. Then, he looked like he was about to burst into tears. Little Hua Shui, do a good deed and let this old man go. I only have 3 bottles of Tree Soul Heaven Nourishing Elixir. You can't buy it even if you have the money. Hua Shui snorted. Are you lying to a child? Hurry up, are you going to give it to me or not? Can we negotiate? No. You are ruthless. The eighth elder was so angry that his teeth were itching. He clenched his teeth and took out a transparent glass bottle with trembling hands. This is? Chu-Hen's eyes lit up. He saw a drop of silver-white spiritual liquid swaying in the glass bottle. That drop of spiritual liquid was in the shape of a teardrop, and it faintly emitted an incomparably pure fluctuation of spiritual energy. What was even more peculiar was that Chu-Hen only looked at it for a moment, and he immediately felt that the Tao tree in his Naiwan palace was slightly agitated. It was like a person who had been starving for a few days had a craving for food. Hee Chu-Hen, hurry up and thank the eighth elder. Hua Shui hurriedly pushed Chu-Hen's arm. Although Chu-Hen did not know what this so-called Tree Soul Heaven Nourishing Elixir was, he could tell from the conversation between the two and the eighth elder's expression that this item was not ordinary. He immediately smiled. Thank you, eighth elder. Humph. The eighth elder clenched his hand and held the glass bottle in his palm. He said angrily, pay half of the deposit first. I'll send someone to deliver the elixir you want before this evening. You'll pay the other half. Chu-Hen was stunned at first. He then laughed loudly. Why do I have to pay half of the deposit first? I'll pay in full right now. After he finished speaking, Chu-Hen took out 10 exquisitely crafted storage rings and placed them on the table. There were 2 billion high-grade primordial crystal stones in each of the rings. Eighth elder, please count them. The eighth elder separated a wisp of true origin energy and sent it into the storage rings. After about 5 seconds, his expression softened. Humph, you're straightforward. Let me give you a piece of advice. Don't stay with this sly girl. She'll turn bad easily. As soon as he finished speaking, Hua Shui stuck out her tongue and made a face. She then snatched the tree soul heaven nourishing elixir from the eighth elder's hand and stuffed the glass bottle into Chu Hen's hand. We still have to go somewhere else. Eighth elder, please send the elixir over as soon as possible. Then, Hua Shui grabbed Chu Hen's arm and quickly fled from the place. Let's go, let's go. Don't wait for this old man to go back on his word. Dan Zhen and Ji Shu also bid farewell to the eighth elder. What's wrong? What's the use of this thing? Chu Hen asked as he stepped out of the door. Of course, this small bottle of Tree Soul Heaven nourishing elixir is worth at least 2.5 billion. It can speed up the growth of your street tree. If you take it to an auction or sell it to an inscription master, it won't be a problem to double the price. Even if he gives you a 10% discount, it's only 1 billion. This is enough for you. Hua Shui was mischievous. With her around, the eighth elder would not be able to gain much. Chu Hen found it funny. He did not expect to gain such an extra benefit by bringing Hua Shui along. Behind him, the eighth elder sighed. Sigh. What a loss, what a loss. I, the eighth elder of Mount Kunliu, have been cheated by a few juniors. How embarrassing! The eighth elder's eyelids drooped. He looked like he wanted to cry but could not. Of course, although the eighth elder looked like he had been bullied, he was actually very clear-headed. Regardless of whether he had made a profit or a loss from this deal, the eighth elder had really done Chu Hen a favor. After all, the other party was very likely to become the sect leader. Just this point alone was enough. To be able to sit in the position of the eighth elder in Mount Kunliu, where there were so many talents, how could he be a mediocre person? After leaving the Eastern Elixir storehouse, the few of them could not stop laughing. Hua Shui, you made the eighth elder's face turn green with anger. Dan Zhen laughed. Who asked him to sell the elixir at such a high price? Didn't we look for him to get some benefits? You little girl. The few of them laughed and shook their heads. In just a short while, they had already spent 20 billion high-grade origin crystal stones. Chu Hen could not help but sigh. It was good to be rich. However, Chu Hen did not feel the pinch. This was because you got what you paid for. For example, the heavenly explosive blood pill that was worth 5 million was a treasure that would cause people to fight for it even if it was in the 100 Nations prefecture. 1,200 heavenly explosive blood pills, 500 earthen dipper tiger soul pills, 500 heavenly dipper shaman strength pills, and 500 true spirit heart pills were enough to raise the General Alliance's overall strength by dozens of levels. It was not an exaggeration to say that with these elixirs, the General Alliance would definitely become an overlord in the 100 Nations prefecture in the next 2 to 3 years. This also fully demonstrated the disparity between the two provinces. If it was possible, Chu Hen really hoped that the General Alliance would be able to walk out of the 100 Nations prefecture one day and look to a higher and further world. However, Chu Hen also understood that this was not the time to think about this. Let alone the General Alliance, even he himself still had a long way to go. Chapter 734. Weapons Pavilion. The moment they entered the pavilion, a gloomy and heavy aura washed over them. The first thing that came into view were rows of weapon racks. The weapon racks were filled with all kinds of weapons. It was a dazzling array that dazzled one's eyes. At a glance, there were swords, sabers, spears, armors, armed guards, all kinds of weapons were there. Anything that could be placed in the weapons pavilion of Mount Kunliu was not an ordinary item. Chu Hen and the others could clearly feel the obscure energy waves emitted by the weapons. What are you doing here? Along with an indifferent voice, a tall and thin old man dressed in a gray robe walked down the stairs from the upper floor. Elder Cheng. The few of them bowed slightly. On the way here after leaving the elixir storehouse, Dan Zhen had given Chu Hen a brief introduction of Elder Cheng, who was guarding the weapons pavilion. He was an eccentric old man of few words. If you have something to say, then say it. If not, then leave. When he saw that it was Chu Hen and Danjun, a trace of surprise flashed across Elder Cheng's eyes, but he still did not show the slightest enthusiasm. Chu Hen did not get angry. Instead, he smiled and said, Junior Chu Hen wants to buy a batch of weapons and armor from Elder Cheng. Oh? Elder Cheng was slightly surprised. What kind do you want? Can Elder Cheng give us a brief introduction? Saint weapons? Yes. Chu Hen nodded. The 100 Nations province did not lack spirit weapons. Many master blacksmiths could forge spirit weapons. Moreover, the General Union was founded by Long Qingyang and himself, so Chu Hen would not be stingy with them. Saint weapons are divided into 3 grades: Star Grade, Moon Grade, and Yang Grade. Star Grade Saint weapons start at 100 million high-grade primal crystals, Moon Grade ones start at 1 billion high-grade primal crystals, and Yang Grade ones start at 3 billion. Elder Cheng said indifferently. The corners of Chu Hen's eyes narrowed when he heard this price. Compared to elixirs, the practicality of weapons made them exceptionally expensive. Saint artifacts were also divided into different grades and rank. At the star level, it was an ordinary sacred object. Some disciples of ordinary sects could also possess such a weapon. Moon class was relatively high, but in a big place like the Victory East region, many people had the ability to control it. Only a small number of people in the entire province could wield a Yang-tier saint artifact. Basically, only the elite disciples of large sects or clans could wield one. As for the saint weapon above the Yang grade, it was the saint weapon that was ranked on the list. This type of sacred artifact was definitely a treasure that couldn't be bought with money. The blue Ran sword and the revolving myriad beasts diagram in Chu Hen's hands were ranked sacred artifacts. It was not an exaggeration to say that if others knew that besides the blue Ran sword, he also had the revolving myriad beast diagram, Chu Hen would definitely be targeted by countless people with ill intentions. How do I buy it? This was a difficult problem. Chu Hen still had 60 billion high-grade primal crystal stones on hand. Naturally, he could not spend all of them. It was more or less the same as medicinal pills. Spending 20 billion primal crystal stones to purchase a sacred artifact was his budget. However, the lowest price for a star-level sacred artifact was already 100 million, let alone a moon-level or a yang-level one. You don't have to buy a good sacred artifact, Danjun reminded him in a low voice. She said, there shouldn't be anyone in your general league who has reached the profound world realm yet, right? Yes, Chu Hen replied. Then a star-level sacred artifact is enough. If the grade of the weapon is too high, it won't be able to unleash its full power, which would be a waste. Secondly, it's hard to guarantee that others won't be jealous of it and secretly send experts to snatch it. In comparison, I suggest that you buy some crafting materials and let them study crafting on their own to improve their crafting skills. After hearing Danjun's words, Chu Hen understood. I understand. With the help of Danjun, Hua Shui, and Ji Shu, Chu Hen chose a total of 30 offensive star-level sacred artifacts and 40 defensive star-level sacred artifacts. After that, he also chose 3 offensive moon-level sacred artifacts and 2 defensive moon-level sacred artifacts. He spent a total of 20 billion high-grade primordial crystal stones. After that, Chu Hen used 5 billion high-grade primordial crystal stones to buy a large batch of crafting materials. These materials were all very rare and precious metals, resources that were rarely seen in the 100 Nations state. In total, he spent 25 billion high-grade primordial crystal stones in the weapon pavilion. This caused Elder Cheng to be surprised and amazed. After paying in full, Chu Hen and the others left the weapon pavilion and moved on to the martial arts tower in the northern district. The martial arts tower was the liveliest place, and many disciples of Mount Kunliu were gathered there. As soon as they entered the martial arts tower, many disciples of Mount Kunliu looked at them in shock. What's going on? Is it Chu Hen and Danjun? What are they doing here? Could it be that they lack martial skills? There were all kinds of books in the martial arts tower, and they were extensive and profound. But to be honest, the top martial arts of Mount Kunliu were not here. They were in the mysterious realm of the flying immortal, the mysterious realm of the demon slaying, and the mysterious realm of the void. Chu Hen, Dan Zhen, and Hua Shui were people who had entered the mysterious realm of the flying immortal. Any martial arts book that they casually learned in the mysterious realm could not be compared to the martial arts book in the martial arts tower. Especially Chu Hen, who had mastered the single sword flying immortal technique that everyone envied. It was even more impossible for him to come here to choose a martial arts book. Senior brothers and sisters, what are you here for? A young disciple came forward to greet them. From his eyes, one could see that he respected and wanted to please Chu Hen and the others. That's right. What are you doing here? Then, a deep voice sounded, and a middle-aged man with a big belly walked out from the inside. This person was the manager of the martial arts tower, Elder Rong. Elder Rong, I want to buy a batch of martial skills from you. Buy martial skills? The surrounding people were stunned. Elder Rong frowned slightly, then pointed to the bookshelf behind him and said, The martial skills marked with the Kuan character of our sect are only passed on to disciples of our sect, and are not to be leaked. As for the external character, you can copy them as you please. Mount Kunliu was very strict when it came to martial arts and cultivation technique. Actually, it was not just Mount Kunliu. No sect, family, or force would allow their martial skills to be leaked to the outside world. This was like the ownership of a territory. When one's own things were shared with others, no matter how bad the thing was, one would feel uncomfortable. Moreover, the martial arts manuals marked with the word external were basically from the outside world, or they were obtained by Mount Kuan Lu after destroying other forces and sects in the past. The martial skills marked with the external character are not bad, but they do not originate from our Mount Kunliu. So the management is not as strict. To be honest, these foreign books can be considered to be the specialties of hundreds of sections. There are all kinds of strange and rare secret techniques and skills, Ji Shu explained. Chu Hen nodded slightly. He naturally understood this logic. How many external, character martial skills are there here? Chu Hen asked. About 1,000 of them. If you want, I can only copy them for you. The price is about 10 million high-grade origin crystal stones each. It had to be said that this price was a little too high. If Chu Hen copied and cultivated them himself, he would not have to spend a single cent. However, what Chu Hen bought was the usage rights of these martial arts techniques. After spending money to buy them out, he could willfully spread these martial arts techniques to the outside world. It was all possible. Which one do you want? Go and pick it yourself, Elder Rong said in a deep voice. Chu Hen smiled and shook his head. There's no need to pick. I want all the martial skills marked with the external character. What? His sudden answer caused everyone to be flabbergasted. He wanted all of them? Was he joking with him? Subsequently, Chu Hen placed 5 storage rings on the counter at the side. There are 10 billion high-grade origin crystal stones in them. Count them. If there are no problems, we can trade. 10 billion? Everyone couldn't understand what was going on. How could he just throw it out so casually? Chapter 735. In less than 2 hours, Chu Hen, Dan Zhen, and the rest left the 100 Treasures Tower. They spent 20 billion upper-grade primordial crystal stones on purchasing elixirs, 25 billion on weapons and crafting materials, and 10 billion on martial arts techniques. 80 billion upper-grade primordial crystal stones were used up to 55 billion in less than a morning. If it was before, Chu Hen wouldn't even dare to think about this. I made a fortune with the help of the Heaven and Earth Mystic Yellow Token. Chu Hen shook his head and smiled. Then, he took out a few storage rings and handed them to Dan Zhen, saying, Senior brother Dan Zhen, here are 15 billion upper-grade primordial crystal stones. Dan Zhen was stunned at first. Why are you giving me these? Chu Hen said with a smile. Of the 7 heaven and earth black-yellow tokens, one of them originally belonged to you. 80 billion high-grade primal crystal stones, there ought to be a share for you. Don't think that 15 billion is too little. Chu Hen still had 25 billion upper-grade primordial crystal stones on him. Theoretically, he should give them to Danjun if they were to be evenly distributed. However, he was about to return to the General League, so he needed to leave a portion behind. Therefore, Chu Hen planned to give him 15 billion first. As for the rest, he would think of a way to make up for it after he returned from the 100 Nations state. However, Danjun had no intention of taking it. He pushed his hand away and said, "You're treating me like an outsider. I was originally assisting you to collect the heaven and earth mystic yellow tokens. If you really put it this way, then there's even less of a share for me. If you hadn't arrived in time that day, the few of us would have died. Moreover, Liao Rui was severely injured by you first, so I had the chance to kill him. The main credit is still yours." "That's right." Hua Shui hurriedly echoed and tugged on Chu Hen's sleeve. "Let me tell you, Senior Brother Danjun's family is rich. He won't be interested in this little bit of money of yours." Danjun's forehead was instantly filled with black lines. "Can you not describe blindly? It sounds like I'm despising Chu Hen." "That's not what I meant. I'm just saying that your family is very rich and doesn't care about this 15 billion. No, in any case, we're not outsiders." All right. Don't talk so much if you can." Danjun was a little speechless. Soon after, she solemnly said to Chu Hen, "Keep these high-grade primal crystal stones for now. When we need it, we can just ask you for it directly. There's no need to draw such a clear line between us." After going through fire and water for several months, Danjun had long regarded Chu Hen as a trustworthy friend. As for the matter of collecting the heaven and earth yellow tokens, there was no need to be too clear about who contributed more or less. Since the other party had already said so much, Chu Hen knew that there was no need to say anything more. He immediately nodded and did not insist. In the afternoon, there was still around an hour before the sun set. 3 carriages from the 100 Treasures Pavilion slowly arrived at the place where Chu Hen lived. "Senior Brother Chu Hen, here are 500 True Spirit Heart Elemental Pills, 500 Heavenly Dipper Shaman Pills, 600 Earthen Dipper Tiger Soul Pills, and 1,200 Heavenly Vitality Blood Explosion Pills. Please check and accept." A young disciple with a proper posture pointed at the carriage that was filled with bottles and jars. "Senior Brother Chu Hen, here are the sacred artifacts you need. There are 30 offensive star rank sacred artifacts, 40 defensive sacred armors, 3 offensive moon rank sacred artifacts, 2 defensive sacred armors, and a lot of metal materials for forging, a total of 200,000 tons. Please accept, Senior Brother Chu Hen. Here are the copies of the 1,000 martial arts, secret techniques, and cultivation methods you purchased. I've copied all of them for you. If there's any mistake with the original, I'll compensate you 10 times the original." Looking at the 3 carriages in front of him, Chu Hen didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He didn't expect the 100 Treasures Pavilion to make such a big scene. Wouldn't it be better to store it in a storage ring? They actually used a carriage to drag it over. It was really too ostentatious. It was especially so for the carriage in the middle that was filled with smithing materials. 200,000 tons of metal materials were piled up like a small mountain. If not for the sturdy floor tiles of Mount Kunliu, all of them would have been crushed. "Senior Brother Chu Hen, come over and count it," the young man with a proper posture said respectfully. "No need. That's it. Then please sign your name on it." The man then handed over 3 scrolls in a row. The scrolls were all written with a list of transactions. After all, the items were valuable and the quantity was huge. Since Chu Hen accepted the items, he naturally had to sign his name as a receipt. Chu Hen casually wrote his name on the 3 scrolls one after the other. "Is it done?" "Thank you, Senior Brother Chu Hen." The young man nodded politely with a smile, then took out a black token and presented it to Chu Hen. Congratulations, senior brother Chu Hen, for reaching the highest level of contribution points. The black token contribution points? Black token? What the hell was this? But seeing Chu Hen's puzzled expression, the young man said with a smile, Senior brother Chu Hen still doesn't know, right? Our Mount Kunlia's evaluation of our disciples is based on contribution points. The so-called contribution points is the value of the disciples' contribution to the sect. For example, completing a low-level mission can obtain 100 contribution points, completing a middle-level mission can obtain 1,000 contribution points, and so on. Where do my contribution points come from? Did I bring back the heaven and earth black-yellow tokens? Chu Hen asked in puzzlement. Reporting to senior brother Chu Hen, gathering the heaven and earth black-yellow tokens is a special mission. We haven't given a clear value yet. Then this is? It's income from consumption. I can increase my contribution points by spending here? Chu Hen's head was filled with question marks. The young man was extremely patient as he explained to Chu Hen in full detail. Ordinary spending is naturally unable to accumulate contribution points. However, senior brother Chu Hen, you've purchased a large amount of resources and materials, pushing the operation of the sect. 55 billion high-grade origin crystal stones can be exchanged for 10 million contribution points. You've directly reached the highest grade of Black Order. He spent 55 billion high-grade primordial crystal stones in exchange for 10 million sect contribution points. Although Chu Hen didn't know how the other party carried out the conversion, at least he had a clear idea. What privileges does this black token have? Chu Hen asked. The black token is the highest level, and there are many privileges as well. For example, you can enter one of the 3 great profound realms to cultivate once, have priority to enjoy the sect's cultivation resources. You also have the right to recruit outsiders as disciples, have the right to recruit disciples of Mount Kunlia? Chu Hen was a little surprised. If that was the case, wouldn't it mean that as long as one person in a clan obtained the black token, then all the younger generation of the clan could enter Mount Kunliu to learn from a master? However, there were many privileges of the black token, but it was definitely not an easy thing to obtain. In the entire Mount Kunliu, there were not many people who could spend more than 50 billion high-grade origin crystal stones in one go. If Chu Hen hadn't encountered a good opportunity with these 3 heaven and earth black-yellow tokens, he really wouldn't have been able to make such a fortune. Senior brother Chu Hen, do you have any more questions? The young man asked. Chu Hen shook his head. No, you can go back and report. Yes, then I'll take my leave first. Then, the young man left with the group of people who came with him. Chu Hen looked at the 3 large carriages in front of him, and his eyes couldn't help but glint of anticipation. The arrangements were almost done, and he could set off for the 100 Nations state tomorrow. I wonder how teacher is doing now? Chu Hen couldn't help but think of a peerlessly beautiful purple-haired girl, Shilan. She was as gentle as water, and so beautiful that it made one's heart ache. After not seeing her for so long, his heart missed her also. Meng Shang, where are you now?